Disclaimer. We are regular guys who love to talk Bone Thugs and Harmony. We do not represent Bone Thugs or any Bone affiliate. We are also not Bone Thugs experts. The views and information you hear in this podcast may be based on personal opinion. Please feel free to leave corrections and clarifying information in the comments. And enjoy. What's up, y'all? It's Cecil West, Beyond the Harmony, beyondtheharmony.com. Back again with the one and only
Jonathan Lippy, and I hope you could hear me.
And we used to call him the best beard in bone, but now I just call him my best friend in bone.
I am Matthew Weaver.
And after all the technical difficulties, this is Beyond the Harmony Live. It is season 5. Thank you, everybody, for standing by and helping us work it out. You know, we got such a big team over here at Beyond the Harmony, and I don't discredit any member of it, including all of y'all. Y'all help us make it happen. You work out the bugs at the beginning. We are here. It is S5 time. Boys, what's happening? We're back. I know we did the lazy bone thing, but that was kind of like the side quest. This is the real deal Holyfield. Here we are.
We're back. It's East 99 time. And just in case there's no national celebration for the 30th anniversary of Bone, being that it's 1994, 2024, that's 30 years. We're here to celebrate the 30th anniversary Bone Thugs and Harmony here on Beyond the Harmony.
Yeah. We are. It's the 30th anniversary. We had the 30th anniversary of Faces of Death, and now here we are in the actual 30th anniversary of Bone Thugs and Harmony. We're creeping on a come up to the 6-year anniversary of Beyond the Harmony. Just so y'all know, the 6-year anniversary is going to land on the 50th episode. It's very exciting. We are live over on Twitch. We are live on YouTube. We are live on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, please give this a share. Real quick before because we ate up a bunch of time working out the technical difficulties, but I did just check in with Thin C, and he says we're all good, so he's ready to go when we're ready. But I did want to just take a minute, and I wanted to talk about some of the things that y'all have been seeing. You probably see we're dropping a lot of content out there lately, man. We gave y'all so much preseason content. By the way, if you're watching this on Instagram and you're just seeing that little screen and you want to see the full screen with the full chat, you want to see everything that's going on, you can go over to Facebook, you can go over to YouTube, you can go over to Twitch. It's Beyond the Harmony on all those. Please come join us on the big platform. But shout out to everybody that's watching on Instagram. I would appreciate everybody on YouTube. Give this thing a like. All the likes help us make this happen. But I wanted to talk about the Skull and Crossroads Society. If y'all have not had an opportunity to see that, we wanted to take a minute and explain exactly what that is. We finally have started a brand new channel membership, and we did it in all kinds of different tiers. We really wanted to, just do something special. We talked about the Beyond the Harmony Network a long time ago. We had talked about the Skull and Crossroads Society. We made that up. We didn't even know what the fuck it was, but we finally know what it is. It's an exclusive club for all y'all. Of course, we love everybody that's a part of this, whether you're, part of the paid group or not. But we did want to set something up and have something that was extra beneficial for everybody paying. So you'll notice right now, if you're on YouTube, that you can see that it'll show you that you can join, or you can see the perks of being a member. And we have multiple tiers of this, including a $3 one that will get you just some of the emojis that you may see in the chat and in our in like some of the comments. I'm actually going to drop some of those in there in the YouTube chat right now, but you'll see that I got a bunch of Eternal ones. There's a bunch of stuff in there. So you can get yourself those exclusives real easy, $3. But we have all kinds of different tiers offering things, including exclusive videos, including we just dropped Romeo Part 5. So Romeo Part 5 is out there. And
I just want to throw in, I know we have some special episodes that Cecil's been working on behind the scenes that will be for members only. You're not going to want to miss some of these. I can't wait to see it. I'm a member just because I want to see what Cecil's got cooking coming up.
Oh yeah, and it's like you'll see. And actually, you know what? Let me see if I can bring up the different tiers just to show y'all real quick, maybe.
While Cecil's pulling it up, let me also just point out early before we got into this, he mentioned we were dropping videos almost on a daily in December. But we brought, just in case for those who haven't followed every single day, we've had articles on Wally from the Crossroads, Boo from Graveyard Shift, Tombstone from Graveyard Shift, 1994 concerts articles, old footage of Mo Thugs that I never even knew existed, from concerts I never knew existed, old Stony Burke articles, the old Busy Bone out of print book, symbols on the collection volume 2, and of course, the video that brought us here in the first place, which we wouldn't be here if that anonymous person hadn't emailed us about the runes on the second pressing of Eternal. So all that's on there. If you haven't seen all those. Oh, and Alzy Roundtree. A little bit about Alzy Roundtree on there as well. So if you haven't seen those, check those out. And I'll get back to Cecil for the perks.
Yeah. So I'm gonna actually go ahead. Let me throw this up on the screen real quick here. I noticed that we had some members join, and I don't know if they saw the different levels. I saw that a lot of people joined in at the apprentice level, which is awesome. We appreciate the support regardless. You'll see at the apprentice level, what it basically does is it unlocks those exclusive emojis. It also unlocks loyalty badges. So you'll get different loyalty badges next to your name over time. If you look at next to John's name, you'll see his is a dark blue versus we have some other people that have a light blue. So that's at $2.99. You'll see then we have a first degree tier. Now, usually the first degree actually doesn't give you any exclusive videos. However, right now we're letting everyone that's a first degree and higher have access to Romeo Part 5. So if you want to check out Romeo Part 5, go ahead, join up first degree or higher, and you can just see that we start to do different things for y'all. At the second degree, you're going to get early access, so the videos, when they come out, y'all will actually get them first. We're also going to have some members only live chats. We may do some of these interviews that for our members only in the chat. At third degree, you see the perks start to pick up, including the exclusive members only videos. Usually that's what the Romeo video would be, but we wanted to give y'all an extra thank you for just supporting. So those are the main tiers that you see. But then you'll see we got some extra special tiers, a 7th degree. that gives you a few exclusives, and then we have a 99th degree. So we got something from $2 all the way up to $100, depending on how much you want to support and what you want to do. But we wanted to kind of go over the tiers with everyone, let everybody see what it is. Like I said, you can do this right through YouTube. If you look, you're going to see that it says join on your screen. It says a few different things. Also, you can just go to join.beyondtheharmony.com. It's also in the description of almost all the new videos. So that's the Skull and Crossroads Society, and that's kind of going to be our new special thing. And it's just a way to help build the channel. I'm going to be honest with y'all, we do this all on the side with as much free time as we can, which isn't really free. Like the three of us are building in a lot of time to make this happen somehow, and we still make it happen. However, just imagine, we have almost 12,000 subscribers, right? If everybody did the $3 a month plan, the amount of time that it would free up for the three of us would allow so much more support for us to be able to put out so much more content for y'all. So, I just kind of wanted to put that theory out there that it's more than just the money. The money, if we really got the support of everybody, we would really be able to turn out you think we turn out content now, boy, if we could do this all day. So those are just some of the things that you can do to support. Of course, you can always hit the super chat button. You can cash app us at Beyond the Harmony. You can tip us over at Streamlabs. All of that will be scrolling on the bottom. I also, real quick too, just want to shout out and show some of our existing members right now. So we got existing members: Kevin Starks, Daddy Locks, Turrock, Jeremiah Williams, Brian, I don't know how do you say his last name, John Bryan, Mike the Man, Brother Carter, and those are all apprentice up to like 3rd degree. However, I do want to send a major shout out to 99th degree members. We only have one now, but it is massive that we had somebody join the 99th degree. So shout out to my man Joseph Tech, supporting the show, becoming our first 99th degree member. That is the Skull and Crossroads Society. And
also for all the early adopters right now, if you guys go to our channel, you'll see that your names are like prominently displayed. YouTube sets it up for like the I don't know if it's the top 8 or the latest 8, but the people who have joined already, there's like a section on our channel page that has a shout out to all you guys. So I don't know how that rotates, but for the ones that signed up, you guys are on there. So you're part of Beyond the Harmony's channel. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how it rotates. But yeah, you guys would be, on that homepage. You're gonna get these. You're gonna get the priority shout outs from us, priority comments. And I'll tell you this too. Like, us, man. We're really good about. We want this to be awesome for y'all. So if you come up with something that you think would make this even better, like, let us know, man. What else can we do to make it better? You saw some of the tiers on there, and that's just some of the stuff that we came up with. But if y'all come up with ideas, hey, this is what y'all can do to make this better, please let us know, man. We want this to be great, and I'm sure over the season, as we build the season, we're going to really be able to do some beautiful things with the Skull and Crossroads Society. So, we just kind of, I know everybody's been watching us in the preseason, kind of talking about it and posting about it, but we really wanted to, take the time and explain it. I just want to, let me hit the comments real quick to see if we got anybody asking. I was just posting the Facebook stream real quick. Let me see what we got.
Well, M-Bone had asked if we had heard the other Lazy Bone albums yet, and the answer to that is, well, we've been prepping for Thin C and dropping daily content. We know that that previous Lazy one was highly recommended by everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So, when we get around to, we'll check that out. I was listening to The Definition today by Lazy Bone, just because Thin C has a lot of production on that album. And it was kind of interesting to listen to it because it really fit the time period of 2009 to 2011. That was a bizarre time for hip hop and rap. And that Lazy album, The Definition, it's got high production. It's got a lot of features. I didn't even realize Snow the Product is on there. Paul Wall is on there, and as well as Flesh and Thin C and others. But just I didn't even realize that Snow the Product did a track with Lazy back in 2010, 2011, whenever that album dropped.
Yeah, and I will say too, if you guys didn't have an opportunity to check out that Lazy Bone stream that we did for the brand new album, that stream was phenomenal. Make sure you guys check that out. Make sure you guys check out the brand new Lazy Bone album. It was really, really good. We were very, very impressed. So you guys want to take your time and check that out if you haven't. That was the first stream back. I see people asking. Kevin was asking, Kevin, if you're having trouble, you should be able to just go right back to the membership tab and upgrade your membership. If you go over to your membership tab, for all you guys that are already there, it should give you an opportunity somewhere in there to so if you go to the membership tab, it's going to see perks. You should also see where it says change level. So under membership on the home page, you're then going to see change level, and you should be able to change your level there. So hopefully everybody can upgrade and be at the level they want to be. But certainly if anybody has any trouble, then just hit us up on the DM and we will help y'all get situated. So that is that. We ran a little bit longer than I wanted to, but I'd already reached out to Thin C to let him know. Let me go ahead. Let's invite our guest in tonight. We have Thin C. I know y'all know Thin C. I know y'all know about Thin C. I don't think y'all know about Thin C the way you're about to know about him, though. We really did a lot of research here, and I think there's a lot of things that are going to blow your minds that we're going to discover tonight. So I'm excited. As always, I'm excited. Actually, the boys know how excited I really was. I was really excited going into this situation tonight. I spent a lot of time the last, I don't know, day or so. I spent the last day or so prepping for Thin C, listening to his music, just doing my research, and I think we got a great one. I'm very excited to kick it off. Let's see if we can get him in here, boys. Dun 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 dun. All right. See him loading in right now. Shout out to everybody in here. I see the chat filling up. Appreciate y'all. Oh yeah, we dropped a brand new question of the day as well, y'all. So if you guys haven't checked that out, check out that new question of the day.
And yeah, to Moon 87, that Lazy Bone HC Chemist Eyes on the Prize, that was the one that a lot of people were recommending. So we will be checking that out. I don't know if we'll do a live stream about it, but we'll be listening to it on the side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, who knows? Maybe we do a live. Hey, there he is.
What's good with it?
Thin C, what's up, brother? Thank you so much for coming through, man.
Man, I thank you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, we're really excited to have you here. Let me see. Let me make sure we got you up on the screen looking good. All right.
Everybody in the comments, give a round of applause in the chat for Thin C.
Yeah, man. Let's fill that chat up with that love like always. Thin C, man, thank you for coming through. We had a couple technical difficulties as we kicked off season 5. I told you last night, though, when we kind of had our pre-call, how excited I was for us to kick this off with you and just to kind of dig in and give us an opportunity to learn more about you, because like I said last night, I think that you're prominent, but I don't think people understand how prominent, how long you've been here. So this is a great opportunity for us to really dig in.
Oh yeah, yeah, but it wouldn't be right if you didn't kick off the season with some technical difficulties. So
Hey,
we here now.
yes,
We here
sir.
now.
Yes, sir. You already know. Cool, man. Well, hey, let's jump right in. I always like to just kind of get a little bit of backstory, just kind of like let everybody know. So when I was checking through things and I was looking, it looks like you're a Cleveland native, right? Born and raised?
Yes, sir. Born and raised.
Yeah, man. And you what? You went to the Cleveland Heights school? You went to Cleveland Heights, is that right? Oh, did we lose Thin C already? Dun 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 dun.
Then sees frozen in time and space
Yeah, Thin C's frozen.
with like a forever echo chamber in the back. Man, well, I hope that he calls back in.
Yeah, there he
Okay,
is.
I'm hearing you now.
Nice.
There he is. Okay. There he
My
is.
bad. Yeah. Class of '92, Cleveland Heights High. Shout out to my people.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so when I was kind of doing my research, because I'm really trying to figure things out, right? Because I'm checking things out and I'm checking out the dates that I see your name on things, and then I'm checking out what I'm seeing. There's a really great like bone history written called Machetes Dipped in Rum, and it's got so much information, and in a few parts it covers you, and it talks about how long you've been with Bone and just how long you've been in this music game. And, it really kind of intrigued me. And one of the things that I was checking out is, when you were a kid, your father, Felix, he owned a company that promoted big Cleveland concerts, and he also managed some artists. Like, can you tell me about that experience and how it motivated you to become an artist later on?
I mean, it was a beautiful experience. I wouldn't change anything about it. It was kind of more or less like I grew up and that's what was going on around me. By the time I was old enough to walk and talk, it was like it had been popping for some years already. My dad managed some bands in the late '60s, some concert bands. The first band he had was called the Bop, and then the second band was called Eargasm. And then he went on to another band called Fantasy, and then he went on to another band, American Way. So, he had things going on in the entertainment industry as far as, promoting concerts, but he was also managing bands. And these guys were all of them. He had the best musicians and all these things going on. So, by the time I was like, 4, and then, we had some business establishments where in the back of those places, the bands would rehearse. So, even my play areas was full of like real instruments and stuff from these guys, and it was like I would be teetering. But right around 4 years old, my brother, we were messing around in the back of my dad's deli, on the drums, and my brother, he showed me a 2/4 beat, and I was able to emulate that beat right away on the drums, and it took off from there. It was like I fell in love at that very moment. I couldn't believe I was doing exactly what he had sat there and showed me to do. And that era, it was just full of like family and things going on with my dad as an entrepreneur. My mom, they were together, but she was a corporate business lady, so she was doing her thing, and she was very heavily in the church. And my musician background stems from first learning the instruments, and then being introduced to play in the church and stuff like that. So it was a beautiful time, man. And like I said, all we knew was like the closeness of family and big dinners and events going on all the time. And I'm getting dressed, and my dad, letting me run around the stage, of the concerts while they're
Yeah.
setting up. If Midnight Star was performing and the drummer broke a stick or something, I get to run out on stage as a little kid and pick up the broken drumstick and then run back concert going on type stuff. And it was a
Cecil, you there?
I'm here. I think did we lose?
It's still there.
yeah, I'm here.
Okay, there he is. Yeah, I'm not sure why that happened. Um, when you were talking about just learning the instruments and stuff, I believe I read something about your father had a warehouse, and that's kind of like where his different bands would meet and stuff, and that's where you kind of got into the like playing with the different instruments. You remember where that warehouse was located?
Man, that warehouse was located in East Cleveland, Ohio, off Hayden, not far from Eddie Road. And we grew up going there. It was a warehouse in the back, but a deli in the front.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
my brother and I, like I said, we would, mess around with the instruments back there, you know, during business hours. And like I said, eventually, uh, I took to the instruments, and it was really at that point, I didn't get into video games and all of that. It was more like, where's the guitar? Where's the keyboard? Where are the drums? You know what I mean? I was that kind of kid.
Did your dad was he just into like the business side of it, or did he play instruments and stuff? Like, did he do anything vocally?
He was mostly in the business side. There was a time where, he had the opportunity to like hang around old guys like the Four Tops and these guys, and they'd all mess around, harmonizing and just singing and messing around, as homeboys. But his one instrument that he did mess with a little bit was the guitar. That was his favorite instrument, and he could strum on and get his little thing going on with it a little bit. But I didn't take to the guitar right away. I took straight to the drums.
Just real quick, Thin, on one of the interviews I heard you in, you were mentioning how you broke it down to your dad that you're working with some rappers. How did was he okay with it? Because I remember, rap wasn't always like accepted by people that were into music. How did he feel about, like, I guess the content of, you know, bridging into rap later on? And I might be jumping the gun, but while we're on your dad, I just want to know how that interaction happened, because I know how like it worked for me and my dad, right? So he was kind of like, what's going on with this rap stuff? How was it for you?
All right, first I want to make sure you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, great. He was wide open to it. It was the thing where there was an age gap, right? And he just knew that he didn't want to interfere where things developed for me. Before I even got to collaborating with other artists, my dad and some of his investment buddies would pay for studio time. I'd go to the larger studios and make my own songs, and those songs would be rap. And so he knew that was going to be the direction, even though I could play gospel on the keyboards and R&B on the keyboards. My creative nature just went to the hip hop side, and so he didn't have no issue with it.
Something that I was curious about is I know that early on, and you had mentioned church, but I know that you traveled with just like different like gospel groups and different church groups, and you actually performed in some very large venues drumming. And I think even at one point you became like the head drummer. During that time, did you do anything vocally at that time, or was it all instruments?
Man, I had a total fear of the microphone. So at that time, so it was all instruments. And like growing up doing that, so it was part of my diocese, Cool JC, or Church of Our Lord Jesus Christ. We have these 2 annual conventions where anywhere from 10 to 30,000 people would meet up, and we have these conventions for 7 to 14 days. And each night of these conventions, we have big, musicals and things of that nature. And, starting out, me and my guys, we were the youngins, and so we would play it as we could, but watching the older musicians. But then when it became our turn, you know what I mean, we kind of like changed the culture just a pinch. We just started rocking out a little bit harder than the traditional guys, and they saw that. And again, I don't think they were interested in interfering. They wanted to see where it was going to go, so they let us have our way. But it was me and guys like producer Warren Campbell, this big European drummer named Miles Johnson, TJ McBride. These are all the guys I grew up around in a competitive nature, just every time wanting to be the best. So yeah, it was that thing, but no vocals.
And looking at just like where you grew up in Cleveland, and just kind of knowing the history of Cleveland, so many artists were affiliated with Kermit Henderson. He had a lot of different companies: Stony Burke, Dolls, Rapid Creations, Cleveland One Stop. Did you ever have any contact or connection with Kermit or any of those companies or stores?
His Dolls Rapid Creation. Um, so there was a time where when we heard about Kermit, Thick and Thin had completed a couple of singles that we really felt strongly about, and we went down to Dolls, and if I'm not mistaken, it was on Euclid in East Cleveland, and you know Kermit sat down with us and we played some music for him, and he was really impressed. But his main thing was like, I never heard of you guys. Where the hell y'all come from? Y'all's music is like quality as hell. Like, where did y'all come from? We're just like, some guys grew up in Cleveland Heights, and we've been messing with music, and was afforded the opportunity to have our own recording studio. But in growing up into our own recording studio, we worked in other studios and stuff like that all the time. So, Kermit, he had good compliments for us, but we never, tried to forge into any business matters with him. It's just we knew he was the guy we wanted to get a kind of a blessing from. Like, no, let's go holler at Kermit. If he give it a thumbs up, shit, we're going after Puffy next or some shit like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You had mentioned Thick C. I know that your brother named you Thin C and your cousin Thick C somewhere around 96. How come you guys got that name? Where's that name derived from?
Me being skinny and Thick being thick. And when we were going over name ideas for the group, my brother met up with us one night at the studio, and he was just like, I got it. And we looking at him like, ah, shit, what he about to say? He's like, you guys are going to be Thick and Thin Corleone. And we looked at each other like, damn, there's no better fit. Like, what? Okay. So it was immediately on after that. My brother Jay gave us the name, and it was a little bit earlier than 96, but yeah, we ran with it when he came to the studio and hit us with it.
Did you have any names before that, or was it just like your real name and then Thin C?
My first production company was called Trouble Productions. It wasn't incorporated or anything like that, but that's what I was working under. And I remember, Bone and all the guys were in town one night. They were downtown at one of the hotels, I think the Ritz-Carlton. And I get the call like, yo, come, we in town, let's kick it. But it was a lot going on. That was home. It was popping. And I got there and I called up to the room and Lazy answered the phone. And he like, yo, who this? And I'm like, yo, this Trouble. He's like, oh, Trouble, huh? Okay, Trouble. And he hung up. You know what I mean? So I'm like, damn, he just thought I was prank calling his ass. You know what I'm saying? So that's when I knew. I was like, nah, I'm gonna leave that alone, because that's, my boys is from this, this world, and we got all this stuff that be going on in the streets and blah blah blah. If you calling on the phone like, yeah, this Trouble. You know what I mean? They taking it a different way versus thinking it's a person. So yeah, but after Trouble, I went to Mafe, which is my home nickname, and then like I said, that's when Thin C came about shortly after that.
You had mentioned your brother, and this is just a question I actually stemmed off listening to you talk. But was your brother did he do anything musically like that? You mentioned he was in the studio with you guys. Like, what did he also rap, or did he do anything?
My brother was very musically inclined. It's just being in that time frame, he was ahead a little bit, and he was one of those guys that by the age of 16, he was interested in living on his own and stuff like that. So his journey took him, out of the house kind of to a degree where he just wanted to go do his own thing. And he played the saxophone, he played the drums, he could write his ass off. But that was kind of more or less like, he was talented at it, but it was just something he could just sprinkle in for fun, like at any given time. He could just pop up in the studio like, no, try this, do this, and boo this. All right, yeah, there you go, and leave. You know what I mean? And so he had the talent, but he it wasn't what he was pursuing at the time. He had already got interested in girls big time and all this stuff, so he was out.
Okay. How much older is your brother than you?
My brother's 4 years older than me.
Yeah, okay. So he had that big brother influence. Was Thick C a similar age as you, or
Thick C is 2 years older than me, but I just want to say rest in peace to my brother. He passed away this past Memorial.
Oh man. Sorry to hear that. Rest
Weekend.
in peace to your brother.
Yeah, Big J, Felix Williams. I love him. I miss him. But just so it's known, once my father's era of being a big influence on things, he stepped aside and my brother took over that. And it was my brother that just kept me at the forefront of what was hip in music at the time. He would show up, hey, come on, get in the truck. We go for a ride. He's playing all the latest stuff from guys' albums, whether it be the Ghetto Boys or whoever. It didn't matter. He just kept me at the front of everything because I was a studio bug. You had to almost snatch me out of the studio to get me to leave. So, but he would be the one like, hey, let's roll up and, what I'm saying, we about to go check some stuff out. So, rest in peace, Jay. I mean, he was a magnificent person but just an extreme influence in my teen and young adult years when it came to music and the direction that I should possibly go as a creator.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic that you had so many positive influences around you that were, motivational and pushed you to pursue these things, whether it was your father or your brother. Like, it sounds like the people around you, and you had mentioned like what a good just family setting it all was growing up. And I think that's great because that's not always the case. That's not always the story, especially on this show. There's so many different mixed stories and so many different mixed backgrounds that it's really great to hear that your family was behind you like that. So
yeah, I was really lucky with that.
Something that a casual fan may have just missed is actually just how far back you do go with Bone. So I want to make sure we had the timeline right for everybody. So I believe it was around 93 that Flesh discovered that you made music and had your own studio, but you guys had been introduced to each other by Mark Seymour before that, and you played ball for a while. Do you remember actually when it was that you met Flesh?
It might have been, let me think, right before I left high school. So that was in 92. Shout out to Big Mark, Big Gang James. They both introduced me to Stack. And it was a trip. It was just like, we were just on some fun stuff. We were playing basketball at Gordon's Park and different parks around not too far from the neighborhood and stuff like that. The association was kind of built because the church I grew up at was around the corner from 99. So I spent a lot of my life down there anyway. But I had focus. I had other things I was doing outside of just, being out running around, kicking it. But on our free days, we'd be down there shooting hoop and stuff like that. And that's when, I was introduced to Stack, and we got along real well. It was a good click. You know what I mean? It was nothing but some young guys who love playing basketball first and foremost, just on some sports stuff. And then, like you said, eventually it was figured out like, wait, no, you play instruments? Like, don't you know we, and I'm just like, yeah, man, we were having so much fun with basketball, bro. I never said anything,
I wasn't trying to mix. I wasn't trying to mix the two things. I thought we were here for
right.
ball. Yeah.
Right. I didn't want it to be confused that, he just trying to get in on the music. That it wasn't on my mind when we were hanging out. It was just, we kicking it, man. We smoking and shooting hoop and drinking 40s and shit. Like, we were just doing our thing as young guys,
So once he found out that you played ball, and I heard in another interview that when he found that out, he was almost like, yo, what the heck, you gonna keep this from us, bro? You got this studio, you didn't tell us. But once he found out, is that when you ended up meeting the other guys, like shortly after that?
Yeah, it was shortly after that. It was a lot going on because, like you know the story, those guys were kind of going back and forth, Los Angeles, Cleveland. They were doing their thing. I was doing my thing. But yes, it was an element of like, all this time and you ain't say nothing. And I'm just like, yeah, it wasn't like that, bro. I'm just kicking it. We having a good old time, man. Pass me that 40, as a matter of fact. You know what I mean? And he like, hold up, cuz, we got to talk about this. You know what I mean? How the hell, and from there it was, he had some artists that were, under his wing, and he was like, yo, we got to get we got to get the studio going on, so I brought some equipment down that gave us capabilities, to produce and record. And from there, man, it was kind of weird. It just kind of took off like a wildfire where that just became the new norm, where it just, turned over and is yielded to music. You know what I mean? Because I knew they were passionate. Well, once I discovered how passionate he was, and I'm like, well, shit, that was my first passion before anything else. And I'm just like, okay, well, that's what we doing. You know what I mean? And so it was from a developmental standpoint with some of the groups he was working with, and, he coming in and doing some recording, dropping verses, whatever. Yeah, so it took off from there, and then different things and events started taking place where I would meet the other guys. And it was a movie, man, and it had its fast moments, it had its slow moments, but it never stopped moving.
So I'm curious, just based on the dates and everything. Faces of Death came out in '93. Were you aware of Faces of Death? Were you around any of them at that time when that Bone Enterprise album came out, or do you have any memories around the Faces of Death project?
I knew Flesh at the time, but it wasn't a music relationship, and so that album that came out, and I wasn't paying it any mind as far as consecutive music, because that was at the tail end of my gospel music obsession. Even though I could produce rap and all these things, that was being a gospel musician was still my obsession. So I wasn't tuned in. I wasn't dialed in to that aspect of things, and but eventually it was just like when it did kick in, events had taken place where we had things that moved quickly past Faces of Death into another juncture, and we kind of connected from there, musically.
So okay, so you kind of found out around '93. When did you did you end up recording them around that time, or was it not until later you actually did some recording with them?
It was later. It was later that I did actual recording with Stack, but I immediately started recording with a couple of his groups that he wanted to get developed and get in shape to start working on albums.
Was one of those Aftermath, I think?
Yes, sure was.
Okay.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, we did. We did.
Hell yeah.
1,000 hours man time in the studio, man. That's all we knew. Like from there, once we knew what it was, it was a love affair for that studio,
Yeah, it's interesting to hear you talk about Flesh in this way, with him being so musically, because something as Bone fans, of course, we know is that Flesh isn't on any of the Faces of Death songs. In fact, when Lazy Bone shouts him out on it, he uses his real name. So it's cool to hear that he was interested in the music, because we all kind of know him at that time as being so kind of invested in basketball, that it sounded like the music thing came after, but it sounds like he was like balancing the two almost at that time. Do you remember like when it became like Flesh was going to be part of the group, like when he was going to be added to the actual Bone group?
I mean, it wasn't like he was added to the group. I mean, it was almost as if he was there, but he had other things to take care of. It was like his talent was taking him in basketball. Like, you gotta understand, Stack was a guy that could do 30 backflips going down the street. He could jump out the gym. Like, he was talented as hell on his athleticism, and so that became part of the focus for him. Like, y'all go lock in with that. Let me see if I can go on over here and mess with, get dialed in with this NBA stuff, what I'm saying, right quick. And whichever one, what I'm saying, we're going to switch the focus and lock it all in. So it wasn't, I don't think it was a thing where he was just added to the group all of a sudden. He was always there. It's just he had his talent and his business he had to stay focused on at those times.
Yeah. It's almost like he was kind of in the background and then decided to jump up to the forefront with the rest of them. Make it like the
Pretty sure
the
he was
priority.
always a phone. Right. I'm pretty sure he was always a phone call away. That's, him and Steve are brothers. You know what I mean? So there wasn't, anything crazy.
So something interesting, I had mentioned this to you in our pre-call, is that we did an interview with an original Graveyard Shift member named 101, and in his interview he was actually going over different people that he had worked with, and he mentioned your name, but your actual name. He didn't say Thin C, and I'm listening to it. I'd actually just turned it on for no reason, and I was like, wait, is that what he just said? So it sounds like you worked with 101, did some work with him. I was just wondering if there were any other of the Mo Thugs that you may have worked with before they were Mo Thugs, or any of those other connections.
Well, I was at different moments meeting everybody, but work with directly. Yeah, 101 was probably one of the first early on. You know what I mean? This guy was like, his creative narrative was stemming from somewhere else. And when we got together and started throwing our ideas around in the studio, it just turned into some whole other shit. You know what I mean? And it was dope. And I was just looking at him like, damn, okay, this guy's his brain talented as hell with this creativity, because he was challenging me to go in other areas sound wise and I had never been challenged like that before. So yeah, he and I, put in a lot of work in the studio. We put together a small catalog of songs, and things of that nature, early on, but I was really more consumed with, what was going on with the acts that Flesh and Bone was putting together. And so it was like, man, it was a juggling act. I had 101 was working with me, the Aftermath guys, then, a couple of other groups. And then, I had my own artistry I was building at the time still, you know what I mean? It was still early, I was still locking in what my sound was going to be. And then I had a couple of acts, that I had took interest in. Shout out to Lil Queen Cobra and the girls. They that I was, also developing. So it was like my studio was it was a rotation going on that shit. We might have took maybe a 6 to 7 hour break going into the early morning hours, allow my parents to get up and go to work and not hear a bunch of noise coming from the studio. And but other than that, yeah, it was cranking, man.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. 101 actually saw that you were coming on the show, and he sent me a text, and he's like, "Yo, tell Thin C what's up, man." He's like, "Find out if he's got any of our old songs, bro. We did a lot of stuff together." So he was really excited when he saw you were coming on. It's always awesome when I see the connections, especially one like that where I'm like, it was surprising. Some guys you're not so surprised that they know each other, and then other things like this you're like, oh shit, I had no idea that they would know each other like that. And what you were saying about him being creative is something that's been said when we had Sin on. Sin was like, he was so lyrically advanced in comparison to so many people, so it's really cool to hear.
Yeah,
that.
he was he was a monster. He was a monster. I'm not gonna make that up. I mean, and that's not trying to blow smoke. That guy, like was said, his lyrical capacity was huge, but he also had an idea of what sound he wanted to go along with that, and he needed to find somebody who could create that. And when he and I got together, and all the stuff I had in my studio that we could experiment with sound wise, we were able to just go there and find that, and boom, once we found it, it was like shit. We go in 20 songs, 25 songs, 30, it kept going. Excuse me.
So we talked about, Bone Enterprise, but of course we know Bone really blew up in 94 with Creeping on a Come Up. They went on to form Mo Thugs and released their first project in 96. And you became really active with Mo Thugs and Lazy from the, the recording side of it in like that 2001 era of Mo Thugs 3 and Thug by Nature. Did you have any other involvement with the recording side of things prior to Mo Thugs 3?
I wouldn't say a whole lot, because during those years, I had a whole lot going on, outside of, these guys being my closest music cohorts. It was other people finding out about me as a producer, Gerald Levert, the OJs,
oh wow,
the Rude Boys. It was like, and it was a thing where I was in these guys' recording session honorably, what I mean? Rest in peace to all the guys that have passed on, Gerald, Levert, and all these guys, Sean, and it was just and Larry Marcus. I knew Larry. My dad managed Larry Marcus since he was a teenager, one of the creators of the Rude Boys and producers. But it was a thing where I was juggling everything going on. Like hip hop was my love affair, but these R&B dudes was like, hey, this guy's got some edge, but he plays some chords. Let's check him out. Different things like that, and so it was. I was in a lot of places during those early times when 94, 95, 96, still connected to my guys, like I said, still working with the artists that Flesh wanted to bring to light and stuff like that, and but I still had a lot going on, and so it was like I tended to it all, you know what I mean? I was getting different projects and stuff like that coming in, where even if it was a artist that didn't have a name, they might have had the budget and had heard that they wanted to work with me, and then got the opportunity to do so. So it was like it was a lot going on, all in fun, all in creativity though.
Yeah, so Bone's out there in like 94, they're during Eternal in 95, and if I'm correct, you were also kind of wrapping up college around that time. The 94, 95 time period. Is that right?
Well, no, I did the college thing. I had finished the college thing probably 93, 94. and you know, so, and what was funny, every time I would get to hear all the stuff before it was released. You know what I mean? Big Mark or Big Game James, somebody will pull up like, "Hey, come on, it's here." Everybody's excited. You know what I'm saying? They're like, well, you know, the new album, we got it. Let's come on, we got to run and bump it. You know what I mean? So we'd either bump it in one of the cars with some sounds, or we hit a studio and bump it. Like we'd get to appreciate everything before the fellas was dropping it on the label and stuff like that. But yeah, the college times ended, you know, in the '94 area.
So
And real quick
Yeah, go ahead.
Cecil, for the chat and the people watching, just realize Thin C's is not just a rapper, not just a singer, not just a producer, but he's also a musician. I think he plays guitar, plays keyboard, plays drums. So this guy is the total package. And if I left anything out, then let him know. But I just want everybody to know the vast talent that you have, and how much you brought to the table behind the scenes, as well as on the boards, on the mic, and everywhere in between.
Let's put it like this. A lot of people thought I was sampling shit when I was actually in the studio playing it. That was my shit. From the age of 4 till at least 19, I was an active musician. And I was an active musician with Grammy Award winning musicians. Like my dad kept big wigs around me. These guys were my personal mentors and shit in the house. You know what I mean? Like in my drum room, there's 2 drum sets, and I got Grammy Award winner Isaac Wiley and these guys coming in giving me chops, and a Grammy Award winner Eric Fearman in the studio with me, like giving me production etiquette, and Melvin Edmonds giving me vocal etiquette, and Melvin Edmonds is Babyface's older brother who was in the group after 7. You know what I mean? Like all these guys were around my whole life, and it was just like that was part, you know, that was a very intricate web that my dad weaved around me. Like he did this powerful thing. He was like, I ain't have it, but I got access to it. And I'm about to put it around your little ass since you love it so much. And you know, so yeah, it was musicianship before I became an actual producer. You know.
I know that you've done a lot of tours. I've heard mixed numbers of how many tours you may have done, but a lot of tours, we'll say. And I know that before even the work on Mo Thugs, that you had been part of the Art of War tour. I think you were even part of Flesh and Bones THUGS tour. Do you remember what the first tour with the guys was that you went on?
Oh man,
Got him thinking.
It might have been. I went out on a few dates before Art of War, and then Art of War came around and did some dates on that, and then the did some dates on the THUG. Listen, thousands of shows, man.
Yeah.
Clarity on where it began and where it ended.
Yeah.
ain't something I can readily put my finger on, but yeah, it was so many dates with the guys on tour. Yeah.
And that's something so many of our guests say. They're like, look, you know, these guys aren't called the Beatles of hip hop for nothing. They tour so much that it's like, you know, it all starts to blur together. And the workload, something that a lot of the Mo Thugs especially mention, is they're like, look, the workload, the amount of songs, the amount of shows we're doing, it just started to blur between family scriptures, family reunion, the Art of War. So all these things kind of just ran together. Before you had vocals to do on tour and things like that on the songs, like what were you actually doing on the tour with these guys when you were in there that early on?
Staying on the sound man's neck. Refusing to let there be any error with the sound, whether I had something to do with the song or not. It for me, it became a home team thing. It was like, yo, whatever it is, I want us to, exemplify perfection when it comes to the artistry, like the performances, the sound, like everything. Because I grew up around these concerts and shit. I knew what it was supposed to sound like, and I was just like, I want my guys to be sounding big like that too. Like I'm here, whatever. I'm back here with the sound guy. Then let's whatever's got to be done to make this a big, exciting show. Whatever part or role I could play, I played.
So after that, though, you really become active, I believe, like around 2000. Mo Thugs, the Mothership. Of course, the El Burner project. Is that right? Is that like when you really started to get your feet wet as far as being an artist and a producer with them?
Well, I had moved to LA finally. Over the years, it was thought, yeah, he ain't never come to LA, because I had so much going on. I couldn't like LA was like, man, that's just so far. Like, and some of my, dearest childhood friends grew up there in LA. Warren Campbell and these guys, they were all out there anyway. But I just didn't take going to LA or being in LA all that serious because of everything I was doing. And then at the end of 1999, one of my music mentors, Buddy Banks, rest in peace, he was out there with Val Young, who pretty much adopted me as her godson. I don't know if anybody knows who Val Young is, but she has a litany of songs on the Death Row Camp. One of her biggest songs was "To Live and Die in L.A." that she wrote with Tupac.
Wow.
That's her singing it. But they're on the phone. She's, cheerleading Buddy, man, you got to get out here. Now you got all this talent, man. You done did all this stuff out in the Midwest and out East, man. And you ain't never came to LA, man. You got to come serve it up. So he talked me into it. I fly out there and I stay for like 30 days. And I was blown away. First of all, when I left Cleveland, there was a blizzard going on. And when I got to California and landed in Burbank, they were walking around in flip-flops and T-shirts. And I was just mind warped. Like, are you kidding me? This isn't real. So that was the first thing that blew me away. But then when I got around those two, and the environment around them was A-list, you know what I mean? I'm immediately meeting Bobby Womack, who becomes Uncle Bobby, and Larry Blackman, and all these guys, Rick James, everybody. Like, this was their normal circle, and all these guys are taking to me like, hey, here's the new kid on the block. Let's get him in the studio. Let's get something out of him. And this stuff started forming. So I did the 30 days. I come back home, do a family meeting. Like, yo, this is it. I've discovered paradise. My dad's chuckling like it's always been there. But I'm like, yeah, well, let's put the budgets together. I'm going to get a place, blah, blah, blah. So right around February 1st of 2000, we get everything done, to get the transition done, to get the place, get moved out there. I'm hanging out. I'm almost losing track of time. I'm having so much fucking fun. It had nothing to do with music. I was around the music, the entertainment industry, but I wasn't working. And I finally, I'm thinking, I'm like, damn, hold up. So I called Lay. I'm like, what up, bro? He's like, yo, what up, Dan? Where the hell you at, man? It's been a minute, because we hadn't talked in a while.
Yeah.
And I'm like, believe it or not, I'm in LA. And he's like, shit, whatever, Dan. What's going on, man? Happy holidays. And I'm just like, no, I'm really in LA. He's like, Dan, for real? I'm like, yeah, I'm here. He's like, man, come holler at me. I'm gonna shoot you the address. Come fuck with me. And I'm just like, all right. Lo and behold, he's with everybody. He's got Ken Dog and all the guys with him, Skano, Immortal Thugs. Everybody's at the studio. They're working on a project. And he was already into the El Burner album. And so when I get to the studio, I'm looking around like, oh damn, okay, y'all putting in work. He's like, nigga, we about to start this Moon Thugs 3. I'm finishing up the El Burner album. So he's starting to it turned on. He turned on the faucet, and he makes a little small announcement like, hey y'all, Thin here. He got that briefcase right there, and I know what's in it. Hey, everybody take their little time slot, get within, and get y'all some music, and let's get this whole shit jumping. And from there, it was just it was no barrier to entry. It was just nonstop. We just took off in the studios, just rocking, recording, producing, mixing, jumping in some shows in between, just whatever. Like it took off. It took off like wildfire.
Yeah, people talk about that the Thug by Nature and the Mo Thug Mothership were kind of being worked on a lot at the same time, and if you listen to those two projects, you can hear the bleed over as far as like the guests and the production. And I was curious because I know of course your impact on the Mothership, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but I was curious what you had done as far as Thug by Nature, what you were involved with there. I believe you were part of the Deadly Musical track, but I was curious what else you might have done on that project.
Well, I caught the tail end of that project. So Deadly Musicals, actually, I mean, bless his heart, like Lay held it up a little bit, Relativity or Rufus, whoever, they were ready for the project because it was, kind of declared done. But he was like, then if you got something for me right now, man, we can go in the studio and get it done. And we met up 2 days later in the studio, and I presented, the track for Deadly Musicals because I had just did it the night before, and he was like, "Boom, this is it." And we got it done. We took it in and got it mixed and everything, and Tamika loved it, and it got put on the album, and that's how I caught the tail end of that El Burner project.
That's dope. That's dope. So then you caught the tail end of El Burna, and then of course we had the Mothership, and you were heavily involved from the production standpoint of the Mothership. Had you got over your vocal fear yet? Did you do anything vocally that we don't know about that maybe didn't make the cut for the Mothership, or were we not there yet?
No, I thought I put the song "Love Is" on Mothership. I'm pretty sure that's on Mo Thugs 3. The Mothership.
That's on the Movement. We're getting there, baby. That's on the Movement.
Oh. Then let's see the Mothership. Then I was fully enthralled in doing vocals, but at that juncture, I think we wanted to keep the edge and the essence of each act, each artist that I was working with, and to show their full delivery capability of them being rappers, but also being, creators coming with strong hooks, catchy hooks. And so when at that time, I was producing but I wasn't really dropping into the vocal category for the guys, for any of the artists, you know what I mean? It was more or less like, let's make what we're doing a full presentation of each artist and let it be the dopest shit we can do for that track.
Was Thick C around at all during this time?
He was back in Cleveland. Thick C didn't come out to LA a whole lot. He had a lot going on. He had started a family and different things was going on like that. And shout out to Thick C. He's still, he's doing his thing, chilling. But he wasn't. It was like I went out to LA. My brother Big J was out there more so than anything. But Big J had kind of been, placed into management, managing my, my affairs, my business affairs and stuff like that. So he was there in that capacity. And so Thick C was kind of like chilling back in Cleveland. And then, I was bi-coastal, so I was still flying back and forth. So when I would come home, me and Thick would be in the studio working on our material and stuff like that. And but he wasn't really big on being out in LA.
Yeah, I know you guys eventually did get a project out. You fully produced it, the Freedom Ain't Free project, and I believe that was even joint released with Mo Thug. Where was Thick and Thin C considered like an official Mo Thug group?
Yeah, we were, but it's just my production capacity. If you look at things, I kind of put in work with all the acts.
Yeah,
and it was a lot of acts, and so I had to methodically figure out how to, stretch myself to still like bring my best foot forward for the home team. And so it was a lot to it. You know what I mean? Songs don't just pop together. You know what I mean? They're writing sessions, they're, production sessions, they're mixing sessions. Like there's a lot to every song, and juggling all of that, working with Skano, Kendall, EMT, Felicia, like the whole gambit, you know what I mean? It was a lot. So, we didn't get a chance, and it's probably, more or less my fault of just being so consumed with everything I was doing as a producer, which was my first, work that I was doing. I didn't really get to bring Thick and Thin to the forefront, like I wanted to.
Yeah.
Well, let me say this real quick about that Thick and Thin C album. Like when it had dropped, I wasn't like fully, aware of Thin C at the time. I think it was like 04 or whatever. But I did. But then like it was being promoted around, and when I got it, I was listening to it and I was like, man, this album is long. It's 18 tracks. I can't believe this. And I was like, this guy Thin C, he must have produced this, because there's no way this album could possibly be this long and this good consistently, like by today's standards, maybe not so much, but when it dropped, I was like, man, this is quality product. There's got to be something to this Thin C guy. And then I come to find out like how talented you were, but it was evident by me listening to just the Freedom Ain't Free, and that was the beginning for you. But you could, anybody with the ear could tell, like, all right, I think the guy rapping also and singing also probably had a hand in the production, just because of just the whole product was an underground rapper couldn't do that, is what I'm saying. And I was impressed with it. And I knew there
Yeah,
had to
thank
be
you.
more to you just by listening
Yeah,
to that one.
yeah, I
So
appreciate it. Yeah, we 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 put a lot of work in on that Freedom Ain't Free album. That was 18 songs that probably got picked out of 40.
Wow.
Um,
Holy shit.
yeah, no, we worked a lot. It's just we were real meticulous and on ourselves and what we wanted to present, you know, musically. Uh, so we went through a lot to create this, pool of songs, and then pull from the pool of songs, and going back and forth with a few songs, and then but it eventually came together with the Freedom Ain't Free album, and yeah, that's how that came about. But yeah, I produced the whole thing.
and we also wondered, like, as far as the features on the album, like how those worked out. Now I think you might have answered it by saying you had a pool of about 40 tracks, and those were the best ones, but I just wondered how at the time were you selecting, like, all right, let's get some feature guests, or did it just play out just that those were the 18 tracks you wanted to put on? Was it like specific with the guests?
We didn't go guest specific. With a little crew that I was working with called La Cosa Nostra at the time. Those guys, we had a little sprinkle of them throughout some of the work, but Thick and Thin was how can I describe? We were very serious when in creative mode. It had nothing against nobody else. It was just when we felt something was completed, that's where it was. As we worked on each song, and sometimes an artist would come to mind, but other times some of our people might have been in the studio, and you look up like, hey, come here, I want you to go on the mic and try this and do this and blah blah blah. But our creative realm, um it was all fun, but it still had a bit of seriousness to it when it came to Thick and Thin's work ethic, and so we didn't go feature heavy, because between the two of us going back and forth rapping and singing and all of that, it was like, shit, where we gonna fit somebody in at?
Yeah.
Um,
Like I said, man, 18 tracks. I was impressed. Just like you just gave it to the people. You gave a full length CD. I always like doing that myself. Just make sure
Mm,
you give the people more than they expected to get. So my
right,
props.
right.
That was a good way to
Appreciate
come
it.
out the gate, is what I'm saying. With that.
Oh yeah, yeah. We tried our thing. We wanted to get behind it a little stronger with the promotion, but it is what it is. Like I said, there was so much going on, man, and I think that I wish I'd had bigger opportunity or more opportunity to go into the marketing realm and things of that nature. But it was just like, when, like, you got to understand juggling multiple acts, being an artist, all the touring that was going on, like it
yeah.
was very little fancy to go around when it
Right.
came to marketing meetings and shit.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what kind of happened with Thick and Thin C? Did it just kind of fade because you got so pulled in so many directions, and like you said, there was only so much Thin C to go around?
Yeah, my producer capacity just it took over, and uh my passion for that aspect of music was so great. That's kind of where things ended up going. And I'm almost sure Thick, he had went away for a little while, and things were going on, man. Like I
Yeah,
said, there was a lot at the time, but it was just my first business was producer. Like, the artist thing came about just because I had so much studio time and worked on the artistry and was writing and recording hooks and verses and blah 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 and stuff. So the artistry developed out of it, but the main thing was me as a producer. That's what my family's focus was for me, you know going into the industry itself.
And have you been able to keep track? Because when we tried to, like, outline your body of work, it's
oh, it's
impossible.
crazy. It's
It's
fucking
impossible to
impossible.
do. And we
It's
were wondering,
crazy.
like, how do you keep track? Like, do you do it by album? Do you do it by what you produce? Do you do it by what you sang on, rapped on? Like, how do you keep track of all your immense catalog?
It must be impossible
um
at this point.
well, the old school Apple iTunes plays a great deal of favor for me, so I'm able to kind of like categorize things by project title, and then everything under that project title that was involved is saved in WAV and MP3 format, uh, in that old iTunes program. So that helps out a lot. And then it was all kind of converted down onto hard drives and stuff like that. So I got it where like right now, okay, the Apple systems are newer, but I can still plug these hard drives in and boom, and whatever I was associated on that hard drive to be looking for, I could just sift through and find it, and the audio files and all of that would be there. So that's how it all ended up getting stored and cataloged and stuff like that.
You know,
do you
we
keep physicals? Do you keep like a physical collection of like your own CDs, or you just kind of like it's out in the world, it's for the people, it's not for me?
It's for, I put it out in the world. Long as I have my copy, studio copies and sessions and blah blah blah. I purchased the CDs and supported each product, but I also kind of like gave those away, signed them and gave them away type thing as well. So the final product of the projects, you know, I was more or less like wanting to, like, if I came across somebody who hadn't heard or who wasn't hip, here you go, you know what I mean? Put your ears on this, you know, type of thing. So yeah, I didn't get to hold on to much memorabilia from the final products.
You know, we had talked about that 2001 time frame, and something that I found that I was curious if this is an error on the internet, but I'm digging through different credits with your name, and I found a credit saying that you were involved with the song Voices in My Head from The Gift by Busybone, and of course Darren Vegas is credited as the producer on that, so I was curious if that was an error or if you helped with the writing or what that was.
The error was that Darren Vegas got credit, but that was my song.
You produced that song. Holy shit.
I produced that song in Columbus, Ohio. Me and Busy, during the time of that recording, me and Busy hung out in Columbus for like 3 straight weeks. Like some fucking renegades, restaurants, studio.
Wow. That's huge.
Run around, whatever. And out of that, he chose Voices in the Head to be the late song out of what we had put together in that period of time to go on that album. So yeah, I produced that.
Yo, y'all are getting exclusives right now that you didn't know. Fill that chat up with those fire emojis. You just learned something that I know y'all didn't know. That's crazy. That's a fan favorite right there. People go crazy over that fucking song. So that's wild information, man. That is wild. So you recorded a bunch at that time when he was doing The Gift?
We did. I think he and I got the chance to at least do 4.5. 4.5. You know, he worked on the half song didn't get completed because, you know, we were running out of time, and you know, I had been down there, like I said, in Columbus, Ohio for like 3 weeks, and it was like, all right, man, it's time for me to get out of here, bro. We got us a nice little pool of songs for you to pick through and things of that nature. In the end, I didn't know which one he was going to pick, but Voices in the Head was the one he picked, and I created that right in front of him, and I think that's why he ended up liking that one the most, because it was like a couple of the tracks that came down with out of my studio already ready, but he was, you know, I think he was testing me at that time and wanted to see, like, yo, everybody talking about your ass, like, you know, Busy talking a certain way. Everybody talking about your ass, man. You know, man, you just came down here with some beats and blah blah blah. I was like, well, man, come on, let's go in the studio and I'm gonna build some shit right in your face. And at the end of that session, Voices in the Head was done.
Wow. That is crazy fire, man. That is crazy fire. This is why I do this show right here for that. And I love that song, and I think people really consider that like almost like the follow-up to like Demons Surround Me from his first album. So that's such a pivotal song. Are there any other songs from that like time period that you're involved with that may surprise us that we don't know that you're involved with like that?
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it was never a thing where we just going to do one song. It was like, you know, during periods of times we do little collections of songs. And so it's hard to put my finger on that. Yeah. Because, you know, after one collection, we're moving immediately into the next collection. And whoever, you know, the principal at the time for whatever the project is, we're moving into that. And so, you know, that's what my life was with that, you know, in that time.
Yeah. And something that like other producers that have been on have said, like Bobby Jones was like, look, you got to understand, like somebody be working on this and then I might come in and I might do a little bit on this. And then, you know, so he's like, you know, you just never know what I might have been involved with that I may not necessarily be credited for because I wasn't the foundation, but I went in and did this, this, and this. He's like, it's just kind of like the way it works. So I
yeah, that's exactly what was going on. Even when we did the El Burner and or the Thug by Nature album, and then was doing the Mothership at the same time, dude, I had like 5 studio suites running. I'd had ENT in one studio, Ken Dog in another studio, Felicia in the studio, Skano in the studio. I'm sending shit over to Eric Norquist to do the mixes on. And then we got the El Burner stuff going on in a whole nother studio. Like, you know, I was kind of tripping dudes out because, you know, Timberland was trying to get in and get some time scheduled. I'm running the whole building. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, Tim. You know what I mean? Give us a couple more days, buddy, and I'll have some of this shit out of your way. You know what I mean? Like, it was crazy times, but it was the time of my life. Like, you know, that's what I did as a producer. It's like I could split all this shit up in my head. And when I walked in one room, boom, I'm synced in with that. No, put this over here. No, let's get this melody right over here. Let's lock in this lyric right here a little better too. And then I walk out of there, boom, walk into the next room. Like, no, hold up, take that back, man. And I'm working with the engineer. Like, yeah, man, no, we got to bring that up in the mix because that's gonna give him a better vibe and a stronger direction. Blah blah blah. That's just what it was, man. I was floating around, running entire studios, buildings and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's amazing, bro. It's amazing that, and you could tell. I mean, again, you can look at that workload, that 2000, 2001, 2002, like things were so busy. And of course, you remained prominent for a very long time. 3 years after the Mothership, Mo Thugs 4 came out, you're featured on 3 songs as a vocal artist, including a solo called Love Is. You had brought it up earlier, and it really shows off that R&B range. So what finally brought on that change from just being the producer to, I'm going to do some vocals. Not only am I going to rap, but I'm going to sing as well.
Me and Lazy were somewhere hanging out. We jumped in the car. I was driving. I can't remember. We were leaving some bar or club or something, bowling alley even, and he heard some shit playing. He was sitting in the back. My girl at the time was sitting up front, and he like, "Finn, is that you?" And he was just a little puzzled, but that's what he asked. Is that you? And I'm just like, well, yeah, that's me, man. I'm experimenting with some shit and blah blah blah. He's like, you got to be out of your fucking mind, dog. We got to put this shit out. He's like, what are you talking about, experiment? You know what I mean? So again, it was more or less where I was sure of what I was recording and creating. I just didn't know what the reaction of people around me would be. And when Lay got the chance to hear it and he cheerleading, I'm just like, oh, okay, it's okay. It's cool. He's like, man, you giving me this song, man. We better put this shit out. And I wasn't left with much choice after it got out that, I was doing vocals and stuff like that. And I guess obviously I had done well enough with the stuff where, it was presentable to the public. And that's when the stuff started taking off with the vocals.
It's so crazy that you have all these talents, right? These guys have known you at this point for so many years. You have these talents. You've produced on what many of us consider big projects, The Gift, Thug by Nature, even the Mothership, and yet they're not savvy yet that you can spit and that you can sing. It's like these guys must have been like, bro, every time you think you know this guy, he drums, he guitars, he keyboards, all of a sudden now you got all this vocal range too. Like, you were almost like the gift that kept giving to the crew. And the Mo Thugs 4, that's kind of like the that one kind of almost came out of nowhere. I think after the Mothership, like we weren't sure what was going on as far as Mo Thug, if we would see another project, and then all of a sudden we got the Mo Thugs 4 project. Did you guys know going into it like we're gonna do another Mo Thugs project, or did it kind of come back around like, yo, it's time to do Mo Thugs again? Because for us it kind of felt like after the Mothership we may not see another Mo Thugs project.
Well, keep in mind, each principal, meaning members of Bone, each principal had their own input and projects. You gotta understand, like that's Bone, but like at this time they were like fully into their musical expression. They wanted to develop acts and put shit out, and do music with different people, under their own wing and stuff like that. And so there was a lot going on. There was never a time, I guess, with us Mo Thugs that we were looking at like we weren't going to put an album out. It was just about, well,
When?
we're gonna get ready, be ready when it is time. You know what I mean? We never looked at like, oh well, Mo Thug 3, that's it. No, we're gonna stop there. No, it wasn't like that at all. It was just shit was popping. You know what I mean? Tours never stopped.
Right.
You know what I mean? And sometimes you thinking you about to go out on tour for 3 months, but you're out there 7 months. You know what I mean? Because the dates keep getting added and things like that. So and then some tours would go back to back, and that would put gaps in our ability to deliver projects and stuff like that, or even get in the studio to record the new project. So it was never looked at like we were going to stop at some point. It was just we had to shuffle and get things out of the way as far as schedule. And things that were going on, with the principals having to stay busy because they're the core of the brand. So those guys had to keep doing their thing, in that fashion. And then when we could, make those times and those moments to get in the studio and doing different stuff, that's when we could look at it like, okay, we see this project coming about, we see it coming to life. Let's gear up for that direction.
Something that you may not know because it may be more in the background office part, but of course, Mo Thugs 1 and 2, Relativity Records. The third one moved over independently to Koch. That's when we saw Lazy Bone kind of take full control of Mo Thug, and Crazy kind of went over and did Thug Line. Do you know by the fourth one, the move between like Koch over to, I believe it was like Riviera? Do you know kind of like why that move was made? Was it just kind of like a good deal over there, or why from one indie label to another?
I think at that time, like we weren't beholden to any multiple album deal, as from my understanding, as Mo Thugs, and so when the ideas, some of the deals would come about with people being interested that were in power that could deliver what they said. We got the marketing budget, we got this, we got the infrastructure, blah, blah, blah. So, in those meetings that Lazy would have or Crazy would have or whatever, in the best interest of the project, whoever could come 100% to the table and deliver what they said, I think that's kind of where the actual, project landed.
Officially, Mo Thugs 4, The Movement, is the last Mo Thugs album. Now, you said after Mo Thugs 3, like, there was never a thought, like, we wouldn't do another Mo Thugs. It's just about when. Was there ever talk after the fourth one about doing a fifth Mo Thugs project?
At that time, I think, from what I could remember, it was more or less, everybody had kind of locked into just wanting to create themselves strong catalog, to be prepared for whatever. So whether it was going to be a tap for a solo album, whether it was going to be a tap for a Mo Thug album or whatever, I think everybody kind of had gotten really, really locked in to who they were as artists and what they wanted to represent for themselves, and they were locked into building that and creating that. And so, moving past Mo Thug 4, I think that's what the energy turned into. It was from what I can kind of remember, it was nothing bad. It was actually good because this act understood, no, this our sound, this is what we coming with. Let's go pile it up, and if each individual act did that, then that made them busy. That they got them working and locked into their own zone is what we would call it.
Something I've been curious about, we're kind of bouncing around that, between, we're going to bounce around a lot between 2000 and 2010, but something I was curious about is, we're on the independent album topic, is Thug Stories, that featured, of course, a lineup of Crazy, Wish, and Lazy. And it featured the same lineup we'd see on Strength and Loyalty, but Thug Stories came with a bonus disc that featured 3 songs, and you're featured on all 3 of them. I was just curious if those were recorded for Thug Stories, or if that was just kind of some stuff that was sitting in the vault that got thrown on that bonus disc.
I'm almost sure it was recorded for that project. Because didn't DJ Unique come back and participate in the production of a lot of that Thug Stories? Or am I wrong?
I always mix up Thug Stories and Bone for Life. I know he was really involved with Bone for Life, which also had that 3-man lineup. So it was like, and you're on Bone for Life as well. So you're kind of on all those projects. And that's why I was like, well, who knows if this was just like a catalog of stuff that they had and they were like, we need a bonus disc. But you started to end up on all those projects, Bone for Life, Thug Stories. Those projects are what ushered us into Strength and Loyalty, which a lot of us see as the great revival of Bone at that time, especially with, I Tried and everything. Were you ever involved or around any of the Strength and Loyalty sessions? Was there any involvement there where that ended up over on Full Surface with Swiss Beats?
I was, let's see, something happened where I was out of town. Oh, okay. Both of my parents were sick at the same time with cancer, and I had to pull out. So pull out meaning I had to go home and spend some time there, help with family. But with those previous projects building up into that, just to answer your question, no, those songs were done for those projects. We'd go in the studio and do our thing, and the songs would land or be chosen to go where they went for those projects. Those weren't vault songs. Strength and Loyalty was a powerful project. I was
so
in
great.
it, like, so when they got the majority of it done on the front end, in the studio with Swizz, I was not there. They were out in Arizona. I was at home trying to get my parents, back to health or whatever. When things started looking better for my parents, on the tail end of that project, I ended up being just, associated with some of the vocal production, some of the mixing, and some of the finalizing of that project. But I did not play a role for the production or anything like that. I didn't have the mental capacity to, deal with anything musical at that moment, because, like I said, there was a lot going on at home in Cleveland. So, I think the guys did a tremendous job. Swiss Beats and the guys, everybody involved with that project. I mean, when I started hearing the songs, of course I was hearing the songs before they were released. It was amazing to me. I was super proud. We would get these moments and I would just, look at the guys like, man, unfucking real. Like right now in this moment, this far down the trough, y'all about to come out and kick him in the nuts again. And it was a proud moment. Like I was a home team dude. Like, I rooted for my home team. I'm like Kobe, you know what I mean? This is BTNH, this Mo Thug. Like, it's a lot out here that I appreciate musically, that I love musically, but I was a home team guy. Like, I'm rooting for my guys, and I'm always trying to push for the very best. So to hear those songs and that project as it was coming along, it was just amazing. It was amazing, and but I was not in any frame of mind to be disappointed that I wasn't involved. I couldn't be involved, and Lazy was more or less the one, like, kind of like when I knew I had to get out of there, he was just like, yo, you know what come first? And I was like, boom, say less. I'll see you when I can get back. You know what I mean? And that's what took place at that time. But yeah, I thought those guys kicked ass across the board with that album.
No, it's a beautiful project, and from a fan perspective, of course, like, you can almost, and this could be said for any artist, right? There's ups and downs for every artist. There's times where you're hotter, and there's times where you're not as hot. And it's like, we had those independent projects come out, almost a series of independent projects, and then we get Strength and Loyalty. So now we're back on a big label. We got Swiss Beats, who's fire as fuck at that time working. We get the Akon feature. I Tried blows up. Bone is back in regular rotation all the time. And something else happened at that time that I always thought was really cool is that you accompanied Lazy and actually DJ Dre Ghost as well to the American Music Awards. Bone was actually nominated for Favorite Hip Hop Group and Favorite Hip Hop Album. They took home the win for the Favorite Hip Hop Group. How did it come about that you accompanied him and Dre Ghost as well to the award ceremony like that?
By that time, so understand, throughout the background, all of this, how can I put it? It like the love of being creators and taking advantage of every single opportunity to be in that realm. You come across this team of guys who kind of became inseparable behind the scenes, like developing core aspects of these projects that were coming to life. That team was Lazy Bone, Thin C, and Dragos. And underneath all of that, the people around us at the time, who were assisting us, maybe it'd be our assistants, it may be close friends, whatever, whoever was running with us in those times, they were all very highly encouraging. Like, damn, every time y'all get together, y'all come up with some shit. You know what I mean? And it kind of became a thing where we were moving into a realm of developing songs, and I think we just looked at each other like, fuck it, why not? Let's just start putting some things together for us three. And that's where LDT was born. So at that moment, LDT had already been in for years. We had already been coming up with some of the song ideas and things like that.
Can you just tell everybody what that is? LDT. Can you just kind of expand on that?
LDT was the creative network of L, Lazy Bone, D, Dragos, T, Thin C. And we were tapped for quite a few projects, even some of the Bone Brothers stuff. We were behind the core development of the songs for all of that. So there, like I said, it got so much stuff overlapped, man, when it came to the creative realm. Because if we could get to a studio, we was in the studio. It was like, sometimes even if we ain't had no work to do, we was in the studio. You know what I mean? That's what we built around ourselves, because it was always a thing. Well, shit, we creators, we're music guys. We don't want to turn into video game guys. We don't want to turn into people who got to go through all these fucking different seances and things to be creative. We need our juices to stay flowing. So we were always creating something, whether it got to the public or not. We were always creating something. And when we saw the strength of that, though, is when it started turning into an LDT thing. And we were in full swing. We were finishing up the LDT project, Dysfunctional Functional Family. And when we got tapped, as far as that award show, the other guys were kind of spread out, busy doing some things, family or work or whatever they were doing. And it was almost as if it was last minute. And so, it was like one day we found out about the award show. The next day we were at wardrobe getting fitted. And the day after that, we're on the fucking stage. So everything went real fucking fast. And it was an honor to be there.
That must have been such a cool moment, especially so much involvement, so many projects, so many trials and tribulations to stand on that stage. And that's a prestigious award. We're not talking some little baby award for, whatever. I mean, that's a very prestigious award to be able to collect that on behalf of Bone. That must have been a memorable moment. The pictures of you all together, I think we all know. I mean, everybody can visualize that in their head, and it's just it's a beautiful moment as a fan to see, especially because I think that Dragos really goes under the radar for your casual Bone fan and how important he is, and to see you and Dragos with Lazy accepting that award is very cool as a fan. I can't imagine what it was like for you.
Oh yeah, I mean it was exhilarating. It like I said, it was fast, but it was beautiful. It was fun. And by the way, I want to say DJ Dragos. Dragos is certified DJ, and his input was always from some extract realm where hey, think about this over here. You know what I mean? As far as he kept us on our toes, with that kind of stuff. But it was a lot of fun, man. There was a lot going on. I mean, our life was already like for so many years, we're secluded in limos, and people are around to keep other people away, and we're just certain things became normal life. And in that moment, like I said, the way it ushered itself through those days, we were just we looked up and we were there. And then next thing you know, Kid Rock's on stage like Bone Thugs in Harmony, and I'm looking around like, oh fuck, we got set up. You know what I'm saying? And so then, like I said, we go up there and honorably, in representation of the guys, and they did know, and we're forever grateful to the guys for, letting that be, letting that happen. You know what I mean? They didn't have to, but they did, and so we enjoyed ourselves and had a great time that night.
Yeah, it's a beautiful moment. There was a lot of great moments, building blocks that, of course, brought us to, I think, the thing that fans link you to in such a heavy way. A lot of it's with the single, but of course we see Flesh and Bone. Flesh and Bone finally comes home. Busy Bone comes back to the group. It's time for Unify, the world's enemy, and we transition into that, and that was a huge moment for Bone, and I've just been curious behind the scenes, as an affiliate, as a producer, as a friend, whatever it is. Can you just kind of talk about that vibe as in the background, what it was like as we started to know Busy Bone's gonna come back, Flesh is gonna come home, it's gonna be all five again, like that? Because as fans, that shit was crazy. You know what I mean? We were on the edge of our seat every day on the internet looking for updates.
It was amazing. There had never not been a time where we didn't desire Flesh to be home with us, and so when that moment came about, the excitement was just building. I was in the courtroom when they sentenced him, and I was there when he was released. And every day it was just an excitement, because it's like we were getting him back, and we were going to make sure it was for good this time. Because different elements loomed, different energies loomed, different tests came about, not amongst ourselves, but just life. And we just wanted to make sure, like, throughout that whole process, that nothing caused injury, nothing got to any point where they were going to test this man and get him out of hookup and let any trouble come about. Because, when you come home from a long stint, your energy is from that place. You know what I mean? There's no way around it. You got to hold a certain energy there. And so we just wanted him, like, to feel the love. There, not everybody was there. An intimate group of us were there, and it was just amazing. When he did come home, and just looking, and we're just, everybody's kind of staring at him on the slide, like, oh my God, this guy is back. We got the homie. It's about to go the fuck down. Okay, that's immediately where the unified energy came from. Brian's back around. Brian had been going through some things, and he had to go, as he would say, wash his feet. And respectfully, nobody got in the way of that. And when it was time for things to start gelling again, you saw the film. Different things were going on, and everybody looked at it like if there was no beef ever. There was just a thing of, all right, we got to get used to this powerful ass feeling of all five of these guys being around each other again. And we're being taken now into the creative realm because nobody wants to let any of the energy of the moment escape. And so, the photo shoots are taking place. And eventually we, start going in the studio on the, the unified ideas and things of that nature. And it just, it snowballed. It got bigger and bigger, better and better. And then there was a lot of learning going on. It was just like, because technically all five hadn't been around each other in quite some time. As far as gelling officially again, like, no, this us again. And I'm not saying they broke up. I'm saying life was lifing for a long ass time. And, for it to come back to where these five guys who naturally marinate together to do it again, it didn't take much. It just took that time and those moments for the gel to come together. And it was exciting, man. Film crews everywhere you turn, there was some cameras and shit sneaking in, and but it was cool. We didn't mind. We understood it had to be captured, for the fans to see that, yeah, like, these are guys, we love them to death, and no matter what the media or whatever the mind frame around any group of people surrounding us was, this shit was real. This shit was love, and it was time to, show the world like, we went through some shit. We was tripping, but we ain't tripping that motherfucking hard where we can't come together and slap y'all with some cold-blooded shit. And we just had to, day by day, step by step, do the damn thing and get it to the finish line.
Yeah, that project is, everything you just said about it, so real. I mean, the unique circumstances around it could never be replicated. There so many moving pieces to that, and it lined up beautifully. And Flesh coming home, really pushing Busy to get back in with the group. A big thing that us as fans remember, and this was a very unique thing, was that think tank. And not just one, but multiple think tanks where Bone and the people around Bone were like, okay, we know what we have here. We have a unique fan base. We have something special. This isn't regular. This is like Kiss's, Kiss, the rock band. This is like their fan base. We need their input. And so we got those think tanks. Like, how did you feel? Do you know how everybody else felt about, like, hey, we're going to present what we're doing to the most critical fans that may be in the fucking in the world? Like,
right.
How was that for y'all? Like, I mean, it's hard as an artist to present your whole soul on something, and possibly your fans might go, I hated that.
Well, it had to be laid on the table, because that was a powerful idea to do the think tanks. And shout out to, Mr. Francis, Bob Francis. We were not shying away from it. It was something new. It was a different energy that, we technically had never come from that direction before. And so it was, it tested the spirit, but it also gave us an opportunity to see, like, we knew our fan base, like, was cold. Like, the fan family the greatest. Like, that ain't even no exaggeration. They've been around 30 years, motherfuckers. Understand? Like, they here with us.
Yeah.
So we knew, but to officially have some of the core of the fan base there, flying in from different countries, flying in from out of town, to do these think tanks, it was just like, when the first time it went down, we were like, hey, ain't that motherfucker from Russia? You know what I mean? Like, we looking around like, oh, they serious. So we didn't shy away from it. We was like, oh, well, okay, we about to hear what this shit gonna do. We're gonna do some performances. Like, we went all the way in with it. Yes, it was different. Yes, it was somewhat challenging, but it was still something good to look forward to. Nobody else was doing that shit. And us knowing that we have the guys have the fan base that they have, it was worth doing it. It was like, yeah, let's do this different thing. Let's give the fans the opportunity to have some fingers in the creative narrative as to how we are aligning this album and the order is going into, because it's going to be, a very powerful thing for the brand, and so those moments were intimate. Those moments were real. We took them serious. We had fun. And as, participants on the album, like, it got voted on, just when I did Sound Like Bone. There were two versions. There's a version where Bone did the hook, and there's a version where I did the hook.
Yeah, Rebirth.
Yeah. And you see how my mind works. Like, there's so many songs. Thank you for bringing it to me.
It's funny because when I had this question, I was like, we had the familiar spin on the very, like, like historic bone, but it was like a new spin on that, and we were actually curious if you wrote that hook or how it came about. So I'm glad you brought it up that you ended up being the one on it.
I co-wrote the hook, and we were oh my god, what's the guy that works with Justin Bieber a lot? Oh my god,
I don't know. I'm a Bone fan.
Catchy name, I know, but oh my god, I can't remember his name. Slips my mind, but he's a big writer, huge writer. He wrote part of that hook. It's just he had it going in a circle the way he had written it. And Lay just looked over at me like, it's too short. We got to stretch it out. And so I, go into the corner of the room with a blunt, and I'm listening to the shit over and over, and boom, boom, boom. I look up at him. He look at me like, you got it? Yeah, I got it. Flesh is over in the other corner. He's writing his verse. He's because the beat's going so hard, and we started that song at a studio over in Hollywood on Sunset, and so I go in and record the hook, and it comes out, and it's official. But then there's the question of well, he's saying everybody want to sound like Bone, but he's not actually Bone. But what do y'all think of having Bone do the hook too? Like, so there was the thing where Bone recorded the hook, with what me and the other guy had written, and but it was the family was like, yeah, y'all sound amazing, but then she was the edgy voice that kind of separated everything, talking that shit about y'all, and the family chose that version, and that's how that version wound up on that album.
Jason Boyd, by the way, Jason Boyd is who co-wrote that with y'all. I just looked it up.
Yeah, he got a nickname.
Yeah, Pooh Bear.
That's different from Pooh Bear, my
Pooh
guy.
Bear.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, sir.
There you go. Yeah, Pooh Bear. He had the energy going on in the studio when we walked in. Everybody, happy birthday. That was his thing back then, and we just took that energy right there. Like, oh shit, he gonna sit up here and be on some fun shit like this. Oh, we about to have a good time and be creative. And King David, the producer, was in there, and we went at it. We recorded quite a few songs, but that was one of those moments, where I was just pointed at like, hey man, go do your thing. The hook is great, but it can't stand the way it is. It's not gonna complete the song.
Was it Pooh Bear that had the deadly issues of telekinesis? Like whose line was that?
Those are my lyrics.
Oh man, because like I think it's been in our brain for years. Like that line was just killer, bro. That was
Pooh. When we came in, he had recorded a couple of his own vocals, just doing it. Everybody want to sound like bone, bone, bone. Everybody want to rap like bone, bone, bone. But he had that going in a circle, and it was great. It was the vibe. But Leia looked over at me like, he didn't want to insult Pooh. He just looked at me, kind of like whispered, like, yo, we got to stretch that out. It's like it's circling too quick. And like I said, I went into the corner and started marinating and trying to understand, not trying, but understanding how big this was going to be. And that's when, as we continue to pick up the pieces, you know what I mean? Like, that's when those lyrics started kind of like coming into me. And I looked at Lay like, no, let's go. It's over. I didn't even write it down. I said, put me in the booth. And I went in there and cut the shit and thank God it was history from there.
Yeah. And that's the piece. 'Cause again, we as fans are very used to that, that type of everybody want to sound like boom, 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 boom. Like we've heard that, but that spin at the end is truly what gave it what we could consider the rebirth, right? Is like, here's the new piece of it. I've always been curious, and I'm sure you're gonna say yes, but at the time, did you feel like that was like the right decision, adding you to it, throwing you into it, making you like the featured guest on it?
Technically, I was doing what was asked of me. My thoughts didn't work that way. See, our creative nature was so locked in. When it came to these Bone projects and me being in the studio, there was really no thing of, well, he can't do this or he can do this. It was just, Den's about to do his thing.
Yeah.
Whether it sticks or doesn't, Den's about to do his thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, and I respected that. I was grateful to that energy being open like that, and I look up sometimes like, am I fucking it up? Am I fucking it up? They're like, no, keep going. And I'm just like, oh, okay, let's go. You know what I mean? And I love that shit. You know what I mean? Here it is. I'm, fortunate and blessed to be, among some of the greatest, lyricists and one of the biggest groups of all times. And we're just naturally always doing our thing when we go in the studio environment. And even if a song I didn't produce or anything, I'm still in the vocal session.
Yeah.
On every single fucking song. No, that wasn't clear, bro. Let's say that one more time. You can do that one again. You know what I mean? And I didn't need credit for that. Again, that was just me fighting for the home team to, as they were fighting, to always put out the best shit possible, as far as what they were going to do from a creative standpoint.
I just want to shout out Sloan. I see Sloan over on Instagram watching, so shout out to Sloan Bone.
Sleazy.
Yes, sir. So, you know, what's cool about that song, and I just touched on it, that the second part of the hook kind of gave it that rebirth, the updated Bone, so to speak. The video also had that really cool futuristic feel to it, and you were featured in that. Do you remember that day filming that video? It looked like it was a lot of green screen, but at the time we were like, wow, this is a fucking crazy video. Like, it was just like everything about it was so cool, and it came out really good. It was the second single that dropped. You know, we got, before that, we got See Me Shine, which felt more traditional Bone, but updated. But then like that Rebirth hit, man, and that was so exciting. Do you remember that video and shooting that video?
I do. And that was the more honored thing, where I felt honored, because it was like, you know, they didn't have to put me in the visual as well, but it was natural. When we got to the video shoot and wardrobe was going on, we were all in there, and Lazy looks over at the stylist like, yeah, you got to fit him too. And you know, she hadn't been told ahead of time, but she was ready, and she sized me and fitted me, and you know, it just kept going forward from there. They were just like, that's him. Like, why aren't we going to put him on a visual? And you know, so it just went forward from there, being done, you know, and it was cool. It was, I mean, trust me, we've done so much filming. It doesn't equal the amount of recording we've done, but there's been a lot of filming going on. It hasn't been spoken on, but there's a lot of filming going on too. Shit. So I wasn't new to that. It's just, you know, with that being that particular project, that's where the honor was. It was like, you know, damn, okay, this is about to be the latest and greatest. We here together, and everybody is just really, really adamant about this shit being right, this shit being dope. And now the visual aspect is here, and shit, we about to just do our thing. We got these cameras and blue green screens and shit all over the place. It was like they was filming The Matrix, you know. And
Yeah.
it was dope as fuck and fun. And you know, like I said, I was honored to be there, man.
Yeah. Beautiful video. Very cool to see you in it. What's always interesting to me is, like, if Bone was a rock band, even though you have your core members in a band, when they travel and they tour, it's like you got this extra keyboard player, this extra guitar player, and they're considered touring members, right? And that's very common. And it's like, but in hip hop, a lot of times we're like, oh, the group is these 5 guys, that's the group. But Bone has always had that bigger feel, like, yeah, it is those 5 guys, but like, Thin C's also Bone. Like, even though you're Mo Thug, it's like these guys are also Bone. It's just like, you know, in a not worded such a good way, it's like, this is the touring group, you know, but of course not touring. So it's like, it's really cool when you hear about, like, the way everybody's included, like, nah, y'all are the group as well. Unify, of course, we talked about the think tank, and a debate with fans a lot is the final track list. Like you said, so many tracks were recorded, multiple think tanks, but the final track list is very different from the ones that we thought we were getting as fans. How did you feel about the final track list in comparison to some of the other songs that could have ended up on it?
You know, when you deal with a group like Bone, and the large quantity of quality that comes out of the creative pool, it's never easy. That's why partially why the think tanks came about. It was like, Jesus Christ, how many of these fuckers? You guys can just keep doing this? You know, that's how the label and management is looking like. It's fucking Christ. Everybody does a couple, but you guys keep going. It's getting hard. And so, you know, when you get to that point, I won't say there's exhaustion involved, but you're like, all right, guys, we're running up on this deadline, and we've put in the sweat equity of thought, the sweat equity of creativity, like all of this shit. But at some point, we gotta give way to calling something finished.
Right.
And so at that juncture, it was just like, the final pick, obviously it got played from front to back over and over and over and over and over, quiet, loud, medium, whatever. And it was just a thing where that the feel of it from start to finish became something that everybody loved and wanted to live with. And I think that's the culmination of everything that took place from the start to the finish of that project. And the final thing was the essence that grabbed a little bit of every moment and every juncture that could give that, you know, what we wanted to call the completion.
Were there any songs recorded for Unify or just around that time that didn't make it that you thought would or that you thought should make it on the album?
Yeah, there's probably 2 or 3 of them. That was over a decade ago.
Yeah.
There were probably 2 or 3 of them, but it was just like
I'm leading in just so you know to Debt to Society, and that track. So I'll just give you a little prequel on where we're going with this.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember at what point Debt to Society got recorded, because that would have been a great part for the album as a song, but like, did it apply to the layout of the movie?
Right.
And that might have been why, as powerful as it was as a song, it didn't make the album. You see what I'm saying? The album had to tell a organic but futuristic story that was taking place almost in real time. And I'm almost sure that the Debt to Society was more or less looming to be falling along the lines of, all right, we possibly want to have this as something powerful for Flesh to operate off of, for his selection process, if I'm thinking or remembering it correctly.
Something to kind of recatapult his solo at the same time, something strong.
Yeah, and it made sense. You know, it made sense. So, we all loved the song, but like I said, did it apply to the movie?
Right.
You know what I mean? Was it just going to be some type of stand-up, hot-ass joint in the middle of everything, or was it going to apply to the continuity of the story that was being told by that album?
You know, I mean, we know that, of course, My Life did make the cut, and that was produced by you. You produced so many tracks around that time, or involved so many. I was just curious how you felt about that one in particular, making it, and how you feel about that track. Personally, that's one of my favorites on that album. The chorus itself, like, has really got me through some just like tough times in my life. There's certain Bone songs I can just turn on and ride to that literally make me feel better in life, and that's one of them. So I was just curious, with all the things that you did at that time, how you felt about that song and that one making it.
Well, there's a small story. Yes, I did a small collection of songs for the project with the guys. And when it was coming down to the 9th inning, Bobby Francis, you know, I think it was that particular night, he and I in the studio, I'm listening to mixes, we're going through songs, we're just really trying to let certain other songs sink in to see what we're really feeling and things like that. And he puts his hands on my shoulder. He got these big ass basketball hands and shit. He puts his hands on my shoulder like, then, you know, I think we still need that one that's going to kind of like, you know, bring it full circle for Cray as well. And he's like, I mean, what are your thoughts? And I just looked up at Bobby like, I kind of know some of the shit he loved over the time that is resonated from his sound. I've been around long enough to know, you know, I could put my finger on something specifically, and I think, you know, from a sonic and a sound standpoint, Cray would fuck with it automatically. And it just so happened he's like, I need that one from you, Thin. I need that one from you. And he's looking at me dead serious. I need that one from you, Thin. And it's got to be big. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, All right, I'm about to doo-wop the fuck out of you niggas into the goddamn future. Okay, you want to play? Okay, and it wasn't. I didn't get angry. It was just like, oh, I'm now personally by one of the top execs being put to the challenge. Okay, I got you. I got you. I'm gonna show you what the fuck's going on. Cause so I leave the studio that night. I think the next day I went to a different studio, and immediately I before I got to the studio, I heard the melodies playing in my head already. Like, nah, we're not gonna go there. No, I'm not gonna fall short of this. Like, I've been around, all these, couple decades now. Like, I'm not falling short of somebody saying we need this thing specifically. And so I go in, I get that track done. I play it for 2 or 3 hours. You know what I'm saying? I'm hearing different horns and space age things that need to be going through there. I get them ready, but I don't put them into the track. I go to the studio that night out in Burbank. The guys are back, and Bobby looks over at me like, then it's your time. What are you gonna do? Guys are all in the room, and I just I put the shit in. I put the thumb drive in and said, "Create this for you," and I press play. And that motherfucker, as soon as that beat started, that nigga's head was rocking like, oh shit. And he recorded that motherfucker that night, and it was on. It was on and popping. Motherfucker was just like, yeah, it's over. We got it. And that's how my life came about. I was put to a challenge, somewhat, and respectfully, I should say, and I just wanted to meet the challenge, and I had a ball doing it because I knew when I walked in. I'm looking at everybody, I'm like, yeah, you motherfuckers don't know what Bobby whispered in my ear, but I'm about to show his ass. You know what I mean? Like, out of respect, though. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what I had to go do. So that's where my life, that song came from.
Fans often, I would almost say, put a lot of blame on Bobby Francis around a lot of things with that project, but it sounds like you had a really positive experience with him. I mean, is that fair to say that you had a good experience with Bobby?
I had a great experience with Bobby. Inner workings, conjecture, rumor mill, whatever. All that shit has its own place, right? But when you're a project with a budget that big, with a group that big, and you got people who are earmarked to play certain roles, you got to play that fucking role based on talent because that's why you were picked. And sometimes you're not going to be able to please everything and everybody. But in the end, your talent is what's got to shine to show that this is why I was put into this pair of shoes to walk this path and play this role on this thing. And, from the very beginning, my experience with Bob, this guy, his team, we would come into the meetings. These guys would have fucking positive phrases and words and shit on pieces of paper stuck it all over the walls and shit, affirmations. And he wanted to just build into a different thing. Like, it was like we were going to the NBA finals. You know what I mean? And that's just the energy he wanted to promote. There was no negativity behind that. There was, from all our experiences, we're in these meetings and everything get testy. You're fucking with Bone and they're grown men and you're trying to push them a certain direction and they're like, I don't know if I'm fucking with that direction, blah, 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 blah. All of that's got what it's got. But in the end, you still got that project. So when we say blood, sweat, and tears, and when we say heads bumped, whatever the case it was all because everybody was fighting for the best shit to come out. And as a executive, as somebody in a managerial role, as a fan, I just think, Bobby came through with what he know and his talent, and he put his best foot forward for all the shit. And he didn't look for fame. He looked for the best outcome. That's what I experienced with Bob. And I appreciated that shit. I learned shit from him. There were times I think the guys had to go overseas in the middle of the project or some shit went on. And, me and Bob spent time together in the studio, like I said, getting songs together and, possibly earmarking other things for the projects that were coming next with the Flesh and Bone project, possibly, a Witch project, blah, blah, blah. And we would, I learned things being around Bob. And so I had an appreciation for that shit. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing bad I can say about this guy, because the things I learned from him were the final business details when it came to structure. Like, I knew a lot. I knew how to get all the shit done and paperwork and blah, blah, blah. But there were certain roles that had certain titles that were reserved for the knowledge of the upper echelon. And Bob would whisper that shit over to me. And I'd be like, motherfucker, you probably shouldn't have told me, because that was the missing link. And he's like, yeah, I know. I see. You needed that link. You know what I mean? Like, I did it on purpose. That's how we be. So yeah, no, I'm not really concerned with people who didn't get involved with the intimate creative aspect of things, dealing with, and working with Bob. So I have an appreciation for that shit, and that's where I stand with it.
Yeah, it's really awesome to hear, because, as fans, and like, especially from the think tanks, Bone fans are very opinionated, and everybody, wants to point a finger in a different direction. So it's great to hear somebody that was behind the scenes have so many positive things to say about that. And I wasn't sure where we were going to go with that answer, so I'm actually really happy to hear that answer. Before we wrap up on the Unified subject and we move into the end here, something that I do see people have been asking in the chat. I see John actually asked it as well. A couple songs that people just wanted to ask if you had involvement with or had any thoughts on. One of them was like The Game Ain't Ready. People keep asking about that in the chat. Determination, which of course ended up having a video done by DJ Unique, and there was a few other ones, but people have been really asking about The Game Ain't Ready and if you had anything to do with that track.
The Game Ain't Ready is my song. I produced it start to finish. It was actually one of the first songs done towards Unify. But it got done kind of so early, and when the tumbleweed was going, it kind of got lost in the sauce a pinch. But I appreciated that song. It was the catalyst of, as a matter of fact, I think it was the very first Unified song that was recorded.
Wow.
And I was proud just because it was like, whether this song make it or not, I just got this giant ass energy resonating out of my homeboys towards the creativity of what we got coming up. I don't give a fuck about nothing else now. So, yeah, so The Game Ain't Ready. It was kept in the mix. It just didn't wind up being one of the final selections, all the way down to mastering. It was there. And my boy Claudio, I call him Audio Claudio, but Claudio, one of the baddest engineers ever, mixed it for me. And it took some work though. Like, the beat itself was probably, to be honest, probably at least 55 tracks. And then you got another 60 tracks of vocals.
Wow.
Not just anybody could mix the song.
Right. Holy shit.
Okay. All of my songs were like that. I do full production. Like I said, I play instruments and shit like that. So everything is on its own track. I'm not sampling. I'm not taking clusters and creating stems. No, everything had its own track because I played everything individually. And so they turned into, I like the big beats, so they turned into orchestrations. They would take up a lot of tracks. But that song took up a hell of a lot of tracks. And it wasn't too many people that could get the mix right, or that we would even trust with the mix. And Bob called out when he was like, nah, fuck shit, Claudio's got to mix this. And I said, you talking about Claudio Audio? He's like, yeah, I didn't know Bob knew him. And I'm like, fuck yeah, Claudio's got to mix this. And so, but, it was another honorable moment, like I said, from the very beginning, because I had been in the cut ever since we went on the tour bus and brought Flesh home, in the cut, like, building off of the energy, like, oh, shit. And then, Lay looking at me like, what you gonna do, nigga? And I'm like, shit, I'm about to show you what I'm gonna do. And when that beat came on, everybody automatically went to they pads and shit like that. And I was like, fuck yeah. All right, there's a winning moment right there. There wasn't no play the next beat, play the next beat, play the next beat. It was when that kick dropped on that beat and that motherfucker had that space in it with them, sparkles looming around and Busy looking around like, God damn. And I'm like, yeah, let's go. And they, boom. it turned into an automatic writing session, and then writing got done, and cats is going into the booth recording, and boom, boom, boom. So it was moments like that it didn't have to make it to the finish line on the finished product. We had that experience in that moment from a creative narrative, and it was exciting and fun.
Yeah, and even though it didn't make the cut, it may have been the catalyst, the motivation to make so many of these other tracks happen. Because it's like it only takes a small spark to get a fire, but without the spark, there's no fire to be made.
Exactly.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but are there any other tracks at that time that are standout that maybe yours that got cut that we don't realize are your tracks?
Shit, I don't remember, bro.
Yeah, there's so many. There's a lot. Like, there's a lot. But that one specifically, people were saying, ask.
Well, yeah, no, I literally was probably had some involvement with every single song. Like I said, I didn't have to produce every song, but I was probably in the studio doing the vocal recording and production of every song on top of my songs. I was in every session, period. Okay, so this much time, a decade plus going by, it's like, yeah, that shit's all a blur. Like, I do know what I contributed, but going into like the extended aspect of the things that didn't make it and all of that, like, yeah, that's a big blur. That's a big blur.
I know, and you may have been working on these things kind of simultaneously, but I know shortly after Unify, like, you had a lot of input on Lazy's, the definition and the meaning. So there was a lot of work in there. You were heavily involved with those projects as well. So you had we're talking, so that's got us up in 2011. So we're saying 2000 to 2011, you are basically full-time sixth member unofficially of the group. What have you done work with them since then? Has what's been kind of the relationship workload since like that time frame?
So in 2011, the nearest and dearest thing to me on earth passes away, which is my dad. And I didn't give any credence to the mourning process. We beautiful service. 2-3 weeks later, I took off, and I was hurt. I was confused. I didn't know where my thoughts were going or where they were. Like, I didn't know this event was going to cause this giant ass disconnect for me in life. And so I'm faking my way the rest of the way through 2011. I'm a little bit of everywhere through parts of 2012. As far as with the guys, we're doing stuff and working on different projects, but I'm somewhat of a space cadet. And then, like, it all came crashing down probably before Thanksgiving of 2012, where I couldn't take it no more. I literally just had a breakdown, and it was like I didn't even really want to live anymore. And so my baby sister gets concerned. Nobody heard from me for about a year back home, and I don't know. I think I was inebriated on something. I saw an email from her because they couldn't reach me by phone. I said some crazy shit in the email, and all I remember is something, the reply being, "What the fuck is going on? I'm on my way," or "I'm sending someone." And I think the next day is when I saw that email after I kind of came sober a little bit, and I replied immediately like, "No, I'll come home." And they were like, "If you're not on a flight tonight back to Cleveland, we're sending for you, and it's gonna be on and popping." And I was like, "Nah, nobody around me deserve any of that energy." And that was late 2012, and it was a wrap. Technically, from there, I had to go and rejuvenate myself mentally, spiritually, and everything, away from not wanting to live anymore. And it was the craziest time of my life. I was this person who was just passionate about all this shit I spent my entire life doing. My dad transitions, and for some reason it felt like the entire fucking earth split in half, and I'm falling down the middle of this motherfucker. towards the core. And yeah, that I had to go. Anxiety, depression, everything was kicking my ass.
Yeah, and the burnout rate at that point, because something we didn't touch on as much while you're also producing and touring and all these things, is you also have a very extensive solo catalog as well. So the amount of work that you're putting in this decade plus, without something tragic happening, is enough to make someone burn out and snap. Never mind, losing somebody as important as your father. So, I can see where that much time, it really burns you out. And I mean, it sounds like it was the right thing for you to go home and kind of get regrounded.
Had I not gone home when I went home, there's a strong chance I'd have probably took myself out or some shit, like grabbed a bowl of pills and swallowed them all with a fifth of vodka and hope for the best, type shit. And yeah, I mean, honestly though, my throughput as far as production and the thing, all that creativity and stuff like that, it was really because my nature was to have something around me always that I could be creative on. So no matter where I dwelled, whether it was me by myself or me and the guys throughout all the years, there was always a professional recording capacity at my fingertips. And so that's how I got away with being able to have somewhat of a normal life, but also have this immense amount of music that I caught myself contributing to the arts. But yeah, when things fell apart in my head, yeah, I came home. My family tucked me away. I didn't come out of the house for almost a year. So like late, I think I came out maybe at the end of 2013 and started coming out of the house a little bit, doing different shit, normal shit. And I think it was my brother who was like, respectfully, dog, welcome to the normal world. He was like, the private jets and mansions and shit, you probably need to leave that, let that stuff be, for whatever reasons. And I was just like, hey, I don't even have a desire to mess with it right now, because every thought of everything musically would cause an anxiety attack. I'm having these massive headaches and shit, and I'm tripping and all of this. So I had to literally just leave it all alone. And as much as I love all my guys and everything and all the fun we were having and all of that, and that the great life that was provided around us or that we worked for, it was nothing personal. I had to save my life. So nobody did anything wrong to me. It's just, I had to save Thin C, or I had to save a Mayfica. And that became, first and foremost. In coming out of that, different things were going on to mess with music again. But it was just like, I look up all the children in my family. Shout out to my son Trino. Shout out, who's a producer artist. Shout out to my nephew 222 OK Shay. He's a producer artist, which is my brother's son. Shout out to my nephew, oh Lord, it's Paris, who's my sister's son, who's a producer. All the kids grew up. Like I said, there was a creative element around me always. So they all grew up and learned the shit and are prolific with it. And I look up and they're at the cusp of turning their corner. And I'm like, well, I guess I can, it's peaceful enough to just fucking tell you guys and give you pointers and sit right here and not go anywhere near the entertainment world itself. And that's what I did. But then, another family meeting says, hey buddy, you're probably gonna have to get back to work here. This year and a half it's been pretty exhausting on everything, and as a contributing member, you got to start back contributing again. And so I went and fucked around with a 9-to-5 on some executive shit. First time in my life, I think I was 40, that I had to go out and try and get a real job. And I mean, my resume, I gave them a regular resume and they were just like, well, fuck it, you're hired. And I did that shit. I think something politically happened to change that industry that I was in, where the bonus structure fell apart. So now it wasn't lucrative anymore. And so I walked away from that. And then my sister approaches me like, yo, our Uncle David was extremely successful with his trucking company. And I was like, ah. She's like, it's a way you could be out on the road, but in a different capacity, but like no one's, in your face, and you get to think and work through your thoughts and, restructure life if you want. And I was like, fuck. I was like, you got a point, little sis. 3 weeks later, I left and went to truck driver school and all of that shit, and I ain't looked back since.
You seem at a very peaceful place in your life as you told the story and led us up to this point and kind of let us in about that. You seem at a very peaceful, rejuvenated place. Do you ever miss the music piece? Is there a piece of you that's ever like, I want to go back to that? Or are you like, hey, this is where I'm at now. This is life.
I mean, I would love to, but like over this decade, it's like I successfully started a new company. It is feeding households and taking care of families and shit. And it's like I am in a place right now where I'm finally able to get it where some automation going on where I can pull away physically. But now my interest is moved into the financial realms and investing and lending and being a part of that stuff. So it's just like in my heart of hearts, yeah, I would love to, but it's just like, where do I fit in to an industry that has become what it is now? And it's no insult to anything. It's just, where the fuck do I fit in? Like, yeah, I can come back and produce, but the revenue, that whole shit is different now. And like I said, I got, young people in my life and in my family, my kids and stuff, and they're doing their thing and they're doing great at it. And it's like, I'm almost kind of more comfortable with being a support system for them. But like I said, these other things are going on in real life. Life is lifing. I'm a certain age now, and I can't allow anything to get in the way of my journey that is made me spearhead of a family to show that work ethic, studying, being on top of your shit. You ain't got to be perfect, but just being consistent. All these different things that I got to display to this big ass talented group of young people that's of my bloodline. That has to be done correctly. My brother was in charge of that realm and he left, and it's me now. And it's like, I got to be responsible, and I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to do it. God has blessed my endeavors and my journey to be in a place where everything is good. I can't complain about anything, and I'm not gonna complain about anything. I get a chance to check out music, but I'm a study guy, so like I'll pop on an audiobook before I pop on the radio, and shit like that, because there are other places I got to get, and obviously you got to educate yourself in the vocabulary of these realms, and if you don't get to go there. So that's where life is for me, man. I'm having a good time in the capacity where things are right now, but I do smell, and I am now fervently working on the transition into the next thing. And like I said, I'm not leaving what I'm doing. It's just I'm gonna pay somebody else to do what I'm doing and going to have me some fun and something else.
Yeah, it's beautiful to hear, man. It really is, and I'm really glad we did this interview, especially this last piece. I think is so important to the story. There's interviews out there with you that are older, and they tell a great piece of the musical history. But I had told you in our pre-phone call, my goal is to tell a complete story for every guest that comes on here, because everybody has a unique story and they all deserve to be told in their own capacity, the same way
Right.
that Bone Story's told. And I'm glad you came on and did this. I do have a couple, I guess, what I'd call random questions to ask that just kind of didn't fit in as we made our way. One of them would be, just because of what you said, has anybody tried to pull you back? Has Lazy or anybody in the industry been like, come back, or have people been pretty good that they know that this is where you're at?
No. I don't project any energy to my guys on the sporadic moments we get to see each other. I don't project any energy that I can't come back. And we definitely always, in the conversation, like, hopefully we can do something soon, which I am 100% honestly open to. But we're grown men with, that own and control entities and feeds families, and so there's a lot going on in our day to day, and then fitting in our leisure and things of that nature. And so yeah, when we see the guys, it's always, damn, hopefully soon we can make it happen, and it's an honest gesture. It's just those moments have to bring themselves about. I personally, I always say, hey man, I got, our family owns a studio, but I haven't done anything in their creative. The kids are in there. This is their world. And so I got to go somewhere and get my chops up. In other words, after 10 years of like not even, doing anything creative, I'm just not going to go and all of a sudden make some, I'm in my mind, I'm not just going to go and make some bomb shit that I could present to the guys on some professional ass level. Like, that's not how I talk to myself. I say, all right, I'm probably gonna have to take a year, probably sit on some drums, get locked in again, and then get in the studio and let some ideas pour through. They may start off dope, they may not, whatever. Like, I always tell myself, I'm a rehearse. I gotta rehearse myself to bring myself to any place of a valuable contribution if I was to re-enter the realm. So that's how I look at it personally. From the outside, everybody like, yo, that's Dan. This motherfucker can go in and produce something in 5 minutes. But in my mind, like, I don't know about 5 minutes anymore. Like, this shit might take a lot longer now because I got to think it through, and some of the motherfucking technology is modified forward, and I don't know, if I'll be quick to just snap to like I used to be able to do in all the different studios. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm open to it, but and if the opportunity honestly present itself to do that specifically, yeah, I would. But I personally, I got to get myself in shape. I keep recording capabilities around me to this day, and I haven't touched a fucking thing in 10 years. It looks at me. I don't look at it. So, but it's out of habit that it's there.
It's there. Like, right. It's there.
I'm not going to have a home and not have a fucking studio. Like, what type of shit is that? But am I going to go in the studio? I'm probably not. I mean, because other shit's going on. I got a 5-year-old, and she runs the world. And so I gotta do what she says do. You know what I mean? Type shit. Like, it's the reality of my life where it is right now. I don't regret one bit of it. She's my new energy source, my new life source, and I'm about like creating an entire empire for her and her siblings and all of them to have and appreciate when I get the fuck up out of here. And so that's what it is. That's where I'm at. That's what I'm doing. The music, I'll always love it and appreciate it. I'm not in it as much as I should be right now. I couldn't tell you who the latest and greatest is out of some of this shit right now. Sorry. You can say some names, and yeah, everybody might know them names. I don't know them motherfuckers. This is just the way it is, and I'm sorry. But I'm not sorry.
You've mentioned your kids a lot, and you actually, especially your first two kids, you had very early on. If I'm mathing right, I think your daughter's somewhere in her 30s. Your older son's
32.
somewhere late 20s.
26.
What was it like having those kids traveling so much, doing so much, and having that balance, or trying to find that balance of being the dad and also being thin C during all these pivotal times? And my follow up and extra with that is, now you have a young daughter, so reflecting on those moments where maybe you weren't with the older kids as much, like, what did you learn to pour into your newest child?
So, on the realest levels, with my first two kids, they didn't travel a lot with me. I had somewhat of a phobia about that, where it was like, I'm going out to get in some shit. I'm not about to let my fucking kids see it. I don't want them to be of the element. And I had this thing where it's just like, home is safe. Uh, they're surrounded by beautiful energy and people and responsible people. And, dad's going to be home as soon as he can. Dad's got to go do a lot of work, blah, blah, blah. Hindsight, yeah, I probably should have had them with me a little bit more, but I didn't. Now, with the new one, Carson, I'm not interested in missing any moments whatsoever, because it's important for me to figure out how to instill the essence of what used to be like an entertainment family. That the gap is huge, like you said. Her siblings are fucking 20 years older than her, and they're in it. They're because they were around it and got the essence. But I'm in a different capacity right now. I'm not in studios.
I just want you to know,
20 hours a day.
Stu D's is on Instagram right now saying we got to get him back in the studio. I didn't want to cut you off, but I saw Stu's comment just pop up. Stu's still in there, Sloan's still in there, and Stu said we got to get this guy back in. So
hey,
shout out to Stu D's.
Right, those are my brothers. Mo Green, Go Green. We got a combination of things me and Stu did in history. I love you, bro. And same thing with Sloan Bone. I love these guys. Like I said, our camaraderie was next to none. Like you couldn't touch this shit with a fucking wrought iron sword. But so with Carson, it's just I'm trying to teach her from a historical standpoint. Like her mom is a vocalist, beautiful singer, and she performs at a church where she's on television on Sundays, and so I try to make sure Carson's front and center, like, hey, see mom, mom sounds beautiful, blah blah blah, and these things. And then when we're riding along, the songs that do pop up in my rotation that I'm performing on, I had to clean up the rotation where it's nothing crazy that she'll hear, but right now she just knows me and Kanye West, his Jesus album or whatever that shit was, his gospel album, and so I'm just trying to let her talent be touched, or let her see that she can let these things out if she feel them. She has instruments. She doesn't really mess with them. She'll mess with the microphone. So I see that she's going in a vocalist direction, and she does it naturally. I raised her watching her mom sing and letting her see that she has cousins and family members, and we create music. And so I'm hoping to do enough to where she can at least grasp onto it as an outlet, or take it all the way as a career. But I'm just trying to create a careful blend that I have to be present for, more so than I were with the first two. And that's just where it is. But yeah, she's my energy source.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful, man. It's been an outstanding interview. It exceeded my expectations. We covered so much, and with as much as we covered, I know with your career, we could keep this going. I have more questions on my list, but I think we covered it so beautifully. But was there anything that I missed that you wanted to make sure got in here, or that people knew, or anything like that?
I do want the fans to know that, like, as a collective, like, y'all got to really understand that the Mo Thugs, both early on and now, are a vast collection of people who are multi-talented. You get to see them from their creative or artistic narrative, but a lot of the guys moved on to own companies and successful careers and families. Like, it's a real beautiful thing. Blessed by God, though. Like, I'm not trying to big up this shit and make it what it ain't. Like, it's really what's going on in the diversity aspect of, hey, I ain't heard from this motherfucker. I wonder if they homeless. Nah, not at all. Motherfuckers is surviving and thriving. And I personally praise God for it. And then our relationships, when we do get to see each other, it's still hugs and thug love. Like, it is what it is. That's the experience from the Mo Thug family. And I want them to know, like, this shit, just because, you ain't hearing music don't mean that the love and the camaraderie, we've had deaths and we've all had to come together because these deaths were just giant people in our lives. And rest in peace, Mama P, and Lil Ken, rest in peace. Like, these things have happened where life is lifing, but our energy, our camaraderie, our love and respect for each other, that shit's still the top tier. And Mo Thug still gonna move into the future, however we move, you know. But thus far, it's been a blessed journey from everybody that I'm understanding where they are in life and the things they're doing, and the other side of the creative narrative that they're living on right now and feeding their kids on and spouses and blah blah blah. So, you know, the fan family, y'all the dopest motherfuckers on earth. Like I said, this shit practically over 30 years old. The guys will still go out and sell out full tours to this day.
Oh yeah.
All kinds of shit, and it's just like, hey, I'm the person you're hearing right now, and I'm saying thank you. We love y'all. Like, the shit is real. The shit is appreciated. You know, y'all have been there, and y'all seen, like, you know, we real people who started off just talking about real life, and it became something on to melody and beats, and you know, we still moving and doing our goddamn thing. So all praise be to God, and you know, we appreciate everybody.
Stu D says he loves you too, bro. So Stu and Sloan hung out the whole time. Hopefully we get Stu and Sloan on as well. They have excellent stories, I'm sure.
Yep.
It's been a great interview. I can't thank you enough for helping us kick season 5 off. We haven't done this show for over 2 years, decided to do it, and we were putting together the lineup. You and I had spoke, and we were figuring out who, and I said, let's kick it off with Thin C. You probably don't remember this moment, John. I don't even know how long ago it was. It's got to be 15, 16 years. I was a young kid putting together compilations, trying to make some moves happen, and I was very hip to who you were. I reached out. I said, hey man, I'm trying to put together this compilation. I'm just trying to get some local artists on it. I didn't know if you might be able to help me out at all. You called me on my phone. You said, hey bro, I'm going to send you a song. Don't worry about it. Just put it on there. Just promote it. I hope it helps you out. You sent me a song. At that time, it was exclusive. And it was really, it meant a lot to me. I know for John was involved with that project as well. It meant a lot to him. And here we are this many years later. I get the opportunity to thank you for being so humble, especially at that time where you had such a pivotal career. You didn't have to do that. You didn't have to make the call. You certainly didn't have to give it to me for free. And it shows a lot about who you are as a man and as a person. And I want to thank you for that. And thank you for taking the time to do such a interview with us and giving us so much insight on who you are. And I just want you to know, on behalf of the fans, how much we appreciate you and what you gave to this Bone Thug culture for so many years, man.
Yes, sir, man. It's an honor and a pleasure, man. And y'all made it all the fun because, you know, y'all were the people we were cooking it up for. Okay. So yeah, that sentiment is right back at y'all, man. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, this was Thin C. Let's fill that chat up with those Mo Thug fists one time and show some love to Thin C. I hope this isn't the last time we get you on. We got to get you on for something else. And John says, hey, maybe Thin C and Flesh and Bone should just get together and shoot some hoops sometime. So maybe you guys will get a chance to do that, bro.
I hope so.
Hell yeah.
That would be dope.
Thin C, thank you so much, brother. I hope you have a great rest of your night. If there's anything that we can ever do over on this platform, we tell every guest, you came over here, you gave us a piece of your soul. Anything we can ever do on our platform, please reach out. Our platform is now your platform.
Hey, blessings. Appreciate that, man. That's Thug Love.
Hell yeah. Thin C, you have a great night, man. Thank you so much.
Y'all do the same, man. Respect.
One more time, y'all, in that chat room for Thin C. Throw them Mo Thug fists up. Show some love for our man. What a beautiful interview, y'all. We're back. It is season 5, and here we are. Mr. Lippy.
Once again, I mean, the guests are amazing, and you find out, you're reminded, everybody is a real person, even if they're artists, even if you see them on music videos, they have real lives. real things happen to him. And we have a new phrase from Thin C, life is lifing. So just trying to explain life, just say, hey man, life is lifing and it makes sense. And on top of that, how cool is it to know like Stu D's and Sloan Bone were, watching in? That's an honor right there. That's amazing. And it's beautiful that we're getting to hear these stories, getting this history, preserving it for history for people in the future we won't even know that want to research and learn about Bone and Moat Thugs and how it all happened. This right here is like a reference, like a Wikipedia reference that you could use if you're writing the Bone story. But the other part too that I want to point out is, Thin C is from that era when people were still professionals and perfected their craft. And as you could see at the end when he was talking about learning and in his new career, that you have to learn the tricks of the trade, or at least learn the trade to get into the trade. It's obvious, but sometimes people forget that, and just that pursuit of excellence. Not only that, every time he was put on the spot, like, hey, you're up. He was completely excited to meet the challenge, to deliver, over deliver, and bring it every single time. A lot of people shy away from the challenge, then see ran into it, and that says a lot about character. And it reminds us of a time when people were like that, And we got to start doing that again. So whatever your craft is, whatever your career is, everybody get more knowledgeable about it. Be the best in your field and uplift everybody else around you and contribute. And as you can see in his life now, he's talking about, he's got entities and whatnot, setting up, feeding families and enterprises. So Thin C is just an awesome, awesome dude all around. And it was our pleasure to get to hear his stories and to see, life after the life. So that was amazing. Thin C is remarkable. So I enjoyed it. And great job, Cecil.
Thank you. Beautiful interview. I feel like I say all the time that they exceed my expectations, that it's more than I ever imagined that it would be. I feel like I repeat that a lot. That's a thing that I feel like I say after a lot of interviews, but I mean, it was so true here. This was what I thought it would be. But it was more than I thought it would be. I think that it gave some amazing insight on an important background character that maybe we didn't have as much information on that we should. Amazing, man. It was really great. And what I said to him about, hey, you've had interviews before, but they happened during the peak, so there wasn't the follow up. Nobody knew, and we're the first ones to get that piece that told the next part of the story, and to find out that he transitioned out of the music and he's got another successful company and everything that he's doing, man. It made my night. I feel great about it. I really do, man. That was a beautiful story. Matt Weaver, how'd you feel, brother?
Prolific. We're off to an amazing start. My heart feels very full. The story of Thin C that was, just hanging out there. And I bet you everyone watching, and I know the three of us, like we combined, the amount of knowledge we have over this weird passion hobby of ours is massive. But I learned so much just listening to him. Well, thanks to your questions too. Those questions were insanely good, by the way. But all kinds of stuff. I felt horrible. I had forgotten about LDT, and like when it was happening, and I remember seeing them like he and Draghost, and I don't remember if Lazy would come out for LDT at the beginning of a show, but at least them two were pumping it at the time live, and like I had forgotten about it, and maybe that's just my memory, but there's just so much that needs to be cataloged and preserved for, like, going back to actually what I really liked what you said, John, is it's not even just for us to learn. It's next year someone's gonna be like, who's this deadly telekinesis guy?
Yeah. Nah, man. This was beautiful, and I, you know that I've questioned multiple times: are we doing the right thing? Should we be bringing this back? Are we pouring more time into something that maybe we shouldn't? But this interview told me that we're doing the right thing, that it's not time wasted, that season 5 is very necessary. The lineup of guests that we have coming, y'all, is amazing. We're off to an amazing start. This is the Eternal season, and not because it's all about E1999 Eternal, but because this truly is going to be the Eternal season. So many different things brought us back to the game here. To understand the amount of moving pieces that put Matt, John, and I back in this chair to do this is incredible. So shout out to my co-host, shout out to all the listeners, shout out to the listeners that harassed, emailed, commented, liked, DM'd for 2 years and said, we need y'all, bring it back, where you at? Shout out to y'all. It's incredible. We're just shy now of 12,000 YouTube subscribers. I remember a fucking time in this channel where John and I were like, dude, if we get 100 subscribers to this, it's gonna be crazy. And then when it was like, are we gonna have 1,000 people? Are we really gonna have 1,000 subscribers to this? This is fucking nutty. So to be where we are, it's crazy. Shout out to RC Thugsta. RC Thugsta, our brand new guy behind the scenes that's been helping so much, finding all these articles y'all been getting. He's been digging, doing the research. He's very active and live in our Voxer group, helping put the shows together. So not only do you have John, Cecil, Matt, but RC Thugsta is kind of like almost like the fourth dog for us. Like he's putting in the work. Shout out to him. It's beautiful. We're back. It's season 5, and I'll tell you this: we got some great stories. We found out some awesome stuff, but just like every interview we've ever fucking done, we also dropped a bomb you didn't know was coming, and that Voices in my head being a fucking Thin C song and not a Vegas song is massive. You heard it here. You've never heard it before. Everybody thought that was Darren Vegas. We dropped it on y'all. It's Thin C, The Gift, Busy Bone, Voices in my head. Crazy. We dropped another fucking bomb on him.
Yeah, and it was good to get some insight on The Game Ain't Ready, some positive info on Bobby Francis. It was great to hear about My Life, and that was where he was like he had to bring his A game, and he brought it. And My Life is a song that everybody likes. 10 years later, we got some insight on the Rebirth video and how that all came about, and that's when I was like, all right, Thin C made it, man. He's in the Rebirth video. That Rebirth video was an epic moment. Just the way that video looked, I was so proud. I was like, man, these dudes are just in the future right now, and I think In the Future, that song might have been floating around at the time, and The Game Ain't Ready was floating around at that time. And not only that, just the fact that he wasn't even trying to pawn himself off to Flesh or Lazy. With Flesh, he was just a basketball friend. And then later on, like, Lazy finds out that he could sing. And he's like, wait, you've had these talents all along and you didn't even let us know. So that's really, really cool that he wasn't even hungry. Like he had, I guess he had enough on his plate that he didn't even need to do that.
Well, I don't even think it's that. I think that he respected their situation enough to say, hey, we're friends. I'm not around you because y'all are Bone Enterprise or Bone Thugs, or there might be opportunity. So he didn't even mention, like, I did this. And you heard him say, like, yo, Flesh was almost offended. But it's like, for him, it was like, hey, I wanted Flesh to know, like, I'm genuinely loving being his homie and playing ball. And, so it's like, I'm not even trying to get into that piece of your life, because I'm in this piece, and how cool it must have been after a year or 2 years, year and a half playing ball to find you got a whole fucking studio, man. We need a studio. I got Aftermath. Like, let's go. So excellent story, excellent kickoff to season 5. I can't believe we're ramping up to 50 official episodes. Of course, when I say that, we know that we got almost 600 videos on YouTube now. We have a billion questions of the day. There's fucking probably 20 side lives out there that are just preseason, postseason, middle of the season, but official, I guess what we used to call Thug Thursday, we now call Beyond the Harmony Live, official episodes. We're rolling up on 50. The 50th episode is going to drop the same day as the 6-year anniversary. We're going to do something great when we have that. When we do that episode, we're not going to have any guests on for that one. That one's all for the fans. That one's going to be for y'all to call in, chop it up with us, and we're going to put something together beautiful to celebrate 50 episodes, 6 years. We're here.
Yeah, and we started off saying that we're going to break the Ouija curse this season, but from learning, perhaps it's not the Ouija curse, it's the Ouija blessing. So let the blessings continue. And yeah, man, this is going to be one wild one. I hope to find out one day. Maybe we'll even see a Bone documentary one day where it starts off with like a dusk setting, and it's Thin C and Fleshbone on the hoop court, on the basketball court.
I love
talking
it.
about the old times, bro. Like I'm picturing it right now, and I just hope that happens one day. Just to get together again, shoot some hoops, and talk about the old days. But yeah, season 5, the Ouija blessing or the Ouija curse. We got surprises in store.
Lots.
We got great guests in store.
Lots.
We're just gonna keep bringing it, and just stay tuned and let us know in the comments how we're doing. And but we gonna bring it because we got stuff that we won't even get to. So it's the eternal season.
It's the eternal season. I want to shout out my boy Crazy. If y'all have been paying attention, you recently saw that Lazy Bone Alberna gave Beyond the Harmony a shout out for us covering his newest album. And Crazy was with him and told him it was going down. And Lazy did that shout out, and it's all because of our boy Crazy. If you haven't checked out Crazy's interview, he's actually interviewed right before we interview I believe it was Raid and Rush. So there's a great interview with Crazy right before the Raid and Rush interview from our last season. Shout out to him, looking out for the channel, looking out for us, getting us that Bone Thug love. Hopefully that's going to mean something great. Shout out to all our Skull and Crossroads Society members. I've seen a bunch of y'all floating in and out. If y'all want to join, it's really easy. You can do join.beyondtheharmony.com, or you can join from the homepage right at our YouTube. And make sure when you hit that join that you scroll through and you don't just hit accept the first tier, because there's, I think, 5 different tiers with 5 different benefit packages. So that we got that going on. I want to shout out everybody that gave us super chats. My boy K-Pont was in here. K-Pont has known me since we were in fucking high school, and he walked up to me with our homie, and out of nowhere he goes, "Hey man, I know this is going to be weird, but do you run hellsent.com? Are you Lazy Thug?" And I was like, yeah, that's me. And they were like, "Damn, bro, I love that fucking website. We love Bone Thugs and Harmony." So I saw K-Pont in here. We're talking somebody that's been with me since high school, still showing love. So many people came through. It's great to be back. It was great to see Sloan. And if y'all haven't taken the time to like this video on YouTube, make sure you like it. Make sure y'all are giving it a share. You don't understand how far the like, the share, the comments go. They mean huge, huge things to us. Of course, you guys can always do the same things you always do. You can always hit the super chat. You can always do the super tips. You can go over to streamlabs.com/beyondtheharmony. You can look out for us there. There's a ton of ways you can do it. I want to thank y'all for the support tonight. Season 5. It feels really, really good to be back. My name is Cecil West, rocking with the one and only
Jonathan Lippy, and make sure y'all check out Thin C's back catalog this week. Show him some love.
And of course, he is the co-hosting, coast-to-coasting, come-up creeper, never sour, always sweeter. Ladies and gentlemen,
I am Matthew Weaver.
Feenics Ryzin, it's time to take us home.
the boom.